Hello, everybody.
I'm wondering if the GM can hear us now.
Mr. GM?
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing an introduction. I can hear you all. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to session 3 of Well of the Worlds, which, as we established last session, is going to be called One Night in Ashkam. And we have our current cast of Ashling Avery and Jack the Scavenger Bird, who lives in Ashling's pocket now. We have Edgar Patterson, Freya Sullivan, Lamar Merriweather III, and Roland Morris. And let me get PhD. Oh, let me write that in there. PhD.
It's on his
You know what that
character sheet.
stands for? You know what that stands for, don't you?
Remember?
It stands for piled higher and deeper.
Fair enough.
What is it? BS stands for exactly what you think it does. MS stands for more of the same, and PhD is piled higher and deeper. So last session, you, after leaving the wreckage of the airplane and following a stream, hopefully it would bring you to civilization, which apparently it did, because last session our heroes met Guthni, Dala, and Vilgirth, of the farming, hunting, and leaping people, respectively. You talked to the three of them. You estimated they were about 16 years old, so definitely younger than most of you, although the jury's out in Lamar. The PCs learned that time was told by growing seasons because they have no change of seasons. They have no moon, so they don't have months. So their method of telling time is by how long it takes to sow, raise, and harvest their longest crop. The estimate was that a season, when they use the term, is about 125 days. Also, there's no north, so all directions are told by orientation of the sun. Usually sunrise, sunset, and then roughly noon would be the three directions. Then it gets more complex from that. They understand it implicitly because they've grown up with it. The way the explanation they gave may have been a little overwhelming, but you'll eventually pick it up. You also learned that Wonder Workers was a term used for culture and mythical heroes. Several of you are considered Wonder Workers due to some of the powers you exhibited fighting off the giant people. The three girls brought you to the village of Fearcat, a farming community of around 100 people. You spoke with the village elders and were invited to stay a time. You were also asked to drive out the giant people, as you obviously have wondrous powers that would make that easy. For those who are wondering about giant people, they are 8, 9, 10-foot tall, Bigfoot-looking primates who apparently dwell out in the wilderness and the forests and such around the more civilized areas, and are known to do things like steal livestock and crops and capture people and haul them off, and you'll never be seen again. And they're big and strong and tough. So trying to fight them is not something people want to do, but trying to drive them out with spears and arrows and fire and make them somebody else's problem is the best thing they can do. So you spent a day or so getting to know the people of Fearcat, you helping out what you could. That included things like helping polish spear shafts, helping make sure that spearheads were sharpened, checking out bows, arrows, and leather jacks that were pulled out and oiled and set up. You had some discussion and learned a little bit more about a place called Ashkam, which lies about a half-day's travel to sunset, and you decided to travel there and back while waiting for scouts to find out where the giant people were. This eventually resulted in all of you agreeing to go. Accompanying you is Ruthreath, the daughter of Herger the carpenter, who is one of the leaping people. And you have as guards Brekka and Vereen. Brekka's of the farming people and Vereen is of the leaping people, and they are equipped with spears and short axes and the leather jacks and shields. While Aruth Freeth is basically carrying a bunch of trade goods to try to get some items and things, because apparently Ashkam is significantly bigger than Fearcat, about 4 times as big as the description you've heard, which means it has like 16 long houses, not 4. And it is where the Great Trade Road ends, a term that I think you've heard, and you can hear the capitals when they say it. So there's a marketplace there, and it is central to a number of other villages, which had names thrown at you, which you may or may not remember. And so pretty much early the next morning, we find the 5 of you, your 2 guards, and Aruth Freeth who's got like a big basket strapped to her back, apparently piled high with items and a list of things to look for, are getting ready to walk about a half day, which we're talking 4, maybe 6 hours of walking, which is a number. You may not have realized exactly what you've gotten yourself into, but you're going to walk the road, such as it is, from Fearcat to there. And so we will now see how you all feel about that. The floor is open for your commentary.
So I know Edgar. Go ahead, Lamar.
Oh, by all means, let's go for it.
So Edgar is wanted to take the opportunity to ask about a lot of the things he's been thinking about, to learn more kind of about the area and about a lot of the weird stuff here. And you know, one of the things he'll be harping on is it's really weird that there's no seasons here. And this is with us and with Uthreath, I think, who he was talking to earlier. Because like seasons are based on like the tilt of the earth and there's no stars. And is that really a sun then? Like what is, like, there's something weird here. Fine. But the Wonder Workers stuff, I've heard a lot of Wonder Workers mentioned. Like, what was the deal with the Hunter of Bees? That was really one of my questions. What does that mean? Does this person hunt bees? Are there bees? What do they look like? Do they have honey? Like, what is this? And that would be to Uthreath.
All right. I tell you what, then, I'm going to continue around the table. I'll make some notes, and this is going to presume to be discussion while you're walking.
Yep.
So does Ashlyn have anything specific or to actions, or just drinking it all in?
Nothing specific, no. Just drinking it all in.
How about Roland Morris, PhD?
Roland is actually kind of paying attention to the stuff that Edgar's talking about, because this fascinates him. The Wonder Workers are potentially a link to his theory about magic, so he wants to know more.
Okay. Lamar.
So Lamar is walking, and he is while he's walking, he's trying to figure out how to use a sword and a spear at the same time, and like he is trying to make his anime dreams like come true hardcore, but he eventually realizes it's like it would be a lot easier if it were shorter. So he snaps the spear half and kind of turns it into a boar ikla. So it's kind of like, hiya. It's like, now you just like spin it. And it works better. Yeah. But yeah, bees?
Freya?
Freya is following along, making sure to keep an eye on Ashlyn and taking pictures of the scenery around her as they walk.
Okay. Lamar, having done medieval reenactment combat, you are I am raging at the heavens. You did what? All right. So before we get into Edgar, two things. Breck and Vereen. Now, Vereen can leap. You've seen leap. You've seen like Vilgirth like clear 20 feet easily from a standing start. And Vereen, being older and stronger, can probably do 25, maybe push 30 feet in a single leap. You rapidly understand where they get their name from. So he's tailing behind everybody. He's rear guard with the idea that if anything bad happens, he can move faster than all of you to get there. Your point man is Brecca, who is walking out in front and basically leading all of you along. Now, the road is not much of a road in that it's not paved. It's more of a dirt track, which shows evidence of cart use. So, in fact, it's two dirt tracks with like a strip of grass. It doesn't look like it's used so much that it's beaten heavily down, but there's areas where like logs have been put down or stones have been put down in case it's a marshy area or you have to cross a stream. But this is like a trail that you might find in a park, in a national park. When they talk about a road, all of you are kind of looking around like, this is, barely a trail. Well, it's a trail that's been used, but it's not anything all that impressive or elaborate. So and it doesn't run very straight because it tends to go around obstacles or big trees and rocks, and they don't cut through a hill. They'll wrap around it. So at times you can't always see each other, but you can hear each other reasonably well. It's not super heavily forested, and you're not sure how like Ruthfried is very casual about this walk. Brecca and Vereen are kind of constantly on the lookout, but you're not sure whether they're just practicing, hamming it up, or they're just always like that because they are armed and armored, relatively speaking. If Vereen sees you trying to spear and sword at the same time, he will try to correct, basically saying that's not how that works. And and he'll demonstrate like you can use a spear one-handed because he's got this center grip round and this spear, and he gets into an overhand motion for thrusting, and he try to demonstrate. And you're trying to do your style of fighting, and when you finally snap the shaft in half, he just looks at you like you're on another planet, and Ruthfree stops, and she also looks at you and looks at what you've done and picks up the other half of the spear shaft and like shakes it at you and says, "Never do that in front of my father. He took a long. What is wrong with you? You don't just." And she kind of walks away, holding on to the other half of the spear. The funny thing is, Vereen sees what you're doing and sees now that you're trying to use your spear almost like a blocking weapon, sword. And he thinks he's like, well, that could maybe work. You know what you should do? You put a blade in either end so you could block and rotate and stab. And he starts actually discussing, and you're not sure if he knows what he's talking about, but he starts discussing this idea of using a spear like he can sort of words just failed me. He's sort of taking what you've done and expanding on it. Curiously, whether you actually know it or not, there's a couple of real world blocking weapons that kind of do what you're trying to do with half a spear.
Fantastic. And while he's doing it, he's kind of like humming, "Let's get down to business," right? It's like, yeah.
So Lamar, you end up having. Sorry.
You're good.
Okay. Lamar, you end up having a bit of discussion with Farine, which will sort of spiral into, would this work? How would it work? What kind of moves? He doesn't know anything about the sword, however. He can't help you with like how to fight with a sword. He admits he doesn't know anything about it. So he's like, you would want to talk to the Huskarls at Ashkam and see if they can talk to you about doing what you're trying to do and what sort of sword strokes and techniques. He probably doesn't realize that you're actually pretty skilled with a sword, but he's going off what he knows. So while this discussion is, I missed that.
Oh, he just kind of like smiles and nods, and he's like, "I appreciate it, old man."
He's not that much older than you. He's probably your age.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if he's...
He doubles down, 10 toes down, old man. If he...
You can call him old man if you want, but yeah, he's about the same age of Brecca, who looks to be about your age.
Alrighty.
So Edgar, you have a bunch of questions, and what happens? So Ruthfried she says, well, Vilgirth knows all the stories. I've heard them. I don't remember all of them, but I can tell you that Hunter of Bees was one of the farming people, and he's named so because when he was born, he wanted mead, and there was none to be had. So he went out and found bees and their honey and used that to make mead. And so he then went off and he found the hunting people and the leaping people and the burrowing people, and he took a wife from each one, and each one of them taught him new things so that he learned how to hunt and how to work hides and how to work metal, and he taught them how to farm, and they invented trade. Oh, I can't remember all that. And I know that he did other things, like he fought a monster that dwelled in a lake and made the land safe for people, and that he could stamp his foot and cause the earth to quake, and he could snap his fingers and throw lightning.
Lamar's gonna lean in close to Roland. He's like, they forgot that he had a lot of sex. 3 wives.
It sounded like he said 4, because he took one from the leaping people, one from the hunting people, one from the burrowing people, and one from the farming people, right?
Oh,
yes.
4? Damn. Like,
yeah.
How does he do it? Like, ask him how does he do it? How do you juggle that many? And then it's just gonna, they're just gonna lean back.
Go ahead, Roland. Ask.
Why was I ever interested in teenage boys again? I mean, even as a teenager myself, was I ever that dumb?
Yes, but so was I, so it's okay. At least this is showing us we know better now.
I'm curious about, like, bees in general. Like, if they don't have... Hold on, but let me. He's ignoring their side conversation entirely. Like, it's obvious he's just, like, skipping past it. Because, yeah. So, explain to me the seasons, right? They start... Each season, you have the planting, then the growing. I'm assuming they have... During growing, at some point, there's blooming flowers, yes? And he's asking, I think it was Ashkam, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's asking
Ashkam's the settlement we're heading towards.
There you go. My brain is like, yeah. So he's trying to get like an idea of exactly how even though, you know, she may not deal with farming directly, she at least kind of has an idea of what it looks like.
So, what was your question again?
He's trying to like, yeah, it's the like he's trying to get an idea of like bees. You know, obviously for us, bees are primarily active in the spring when flowers bloom, blah blah. So he's trying to get an idea of how the growing seasons work. You know, they have the time of planting. There's growing. At some point, is there like blooming flowers, things like that.
Yeah. Okay. So Ruth Reith, who is, you figure she's about the same age of Brecken Vareen, so she's in her early 20s. So so basically Lamar has 3 individuals that are about his age, not necessarily his the word went right away.
Maturity level.
Maturity level. Thank you. So she's, you can, as you're asking these questions, you've begin to realize that there's a number, at least leaping and hunting people, you can get a good idea. It's like to be on all serious, it's like, how a dog will cock his head and maybe flip his ears around. You begin to realize that they have that same sort of visual cues, ears and tail, especially ears with leaping people. And so you can see that she's looking at you and her ears are sort of tilted forward, and she, cocks her head as you ask these questions, and she says, when a harvest comes in, when a crop comes in, we harvest it, and we let the land rest for a season, and we plant a new crop in a different field. And when a plant has grown out, it'll be removed and put into the compost heap, and the ground will be redug and prepared, and new plants will be put in. If we want honey, we go into the forest and find it, and there's always flowers and things in bloom. Vilgirth is Mother Geetha's student. She knows all the plants, and she knows what to look for and what they do and where to find them.
So there's never a time where flowers aren't in bloom?
No. Now, as a quick side note there, Roland, some of what she's describing is very much like the tropics, where it's sort of the same season all the time, so there's always something blooming. However, you are in a definite temperate environment.
Right, Roland, are you going to go hunt bees? Is that?
No. I was just curious. Like, we're in obviously, like, with the absence of seasons, there's no spring, so there's no blooming. That means that the bees are busy all year round. It's just it's fascinating.
There's no axial. Right. There's no axial tilt. There's no. I mean, I'm very curious if there are tides.
Well,
there's no.
To be fair, we don't even know that this world acts like ours.
That's true. The laws of physics can be completely different, or it could be artificial, or maybe we're in the Matrix. Who knows? But yeah,
maybe
I mean,
bees
could be
fur and 18 legs.
This is, well, bees have fur anyway most of the time. Anyway, this planet could be like geostationary. Like,
could be.
It may.
Yeah, weird. Have you tried summoning fire again, by the way?
I have not. I've been too busy, like, learning because, well, knowledge is power. I mean, I like that statement.
You should gain more knowledge of your power, man. And try to burn stuff.
Please don't set anything on fire.
How's he gonna learn if he doesn't burn stuff?
I mean, if he thinks if he's looking at magic, there's lots of magic, right? Maybe you can, I don't know, mage hand something.
I have no idea how this works. I'd like at least a chance to be able to do so when I can actually sit and try to study the effect. I mean, just hoping I set something on fire is not going to teach me how to actually set something on fire.
I mean, you do learn by doing. Also, Mage Hand, underrated cantrip. Right there next to
agree.
Mending.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree.
Mending's only good on downtimes.
Depends
It
what.
takes 10
Not when
minutes
you know
to
how to use it. Not every moment is combat.
I know.
Do you, though? Sorry, that was rude.
All right. Somebody in the audience who's leaving wants me to attempt to burn it all, so I'm gonna at least try it.
Redeemed 5,000 gold gift. I don't know what that means, but it sounds impressive.
We don't have anything set up for the Well of the Worlds games.
But it sounds.
But I'm gonna try it anyway.
Oh, goodness.
Hey,
All right.
Set your heart ablaze. He's just like
Give me
cheering you on.
a.
Yeah, like he's like, do it. I'm like, all right, fine. So as they're walking around, they're like, all right, well, I don't know if I can set things on fire. It was just a thought. He's looking for. He doesn't want to start a forest fire, but this is mostly greenery, right? So it's not stuff that's going to catch easily.
Yeah, it's very green. A lot of evergreens, a lot of what you would call, conifers. There is deciduous trees, and nothing. There would be yellow leaves, but you would think that's just a case of,
the trees are naturally the leaves are naturally yellow.
Yeah, either that or pests or something. But and there's leaf litter, so it may be a case they just shed and grow constantly.
Okay. He's gonna aim at a patch of grass and be like, "Let there be fire." I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, give me a willpower roll, please.
Okay. Three successes.
Okay. Why don't you roll 3 dice and tell me how many successes you get on that?
Again, 3.
All right. So do you make any hand gestures? Like go web.
Well, he holds out one hand, and he's he holds out one hand. He's like, "Let there be fire," and he's like, "No, that doesn't feel right." And then he snaps his finger and says, "Let there be fire." The whole him snapping is hitting flint and tinder, so there's a spark.
Okay. So you snap your fingers, and then you realize this little glowing spark has arced from your fingers and comes over to this patch of grass and detonates out, not in a big fireball, but basically flashes out and flares up into a burst of flame, which doesn't really have much to catch on because everything's pretty green here, but there's some smoldering, maybe some dead leaves or twigs sort of burn and everything. A Ruthfree sort of jumps to one, literally leaps to one side and jumps off the road. And Brecca and Vereen both turn around, shield out, spear up, as there's this whooshing noise. And then the three of them kind of look at you in awe because you have once again, but they've only heard, and now you have truly demonstrated that you can. What manner or traveler is this that can summon fire without flint or steel?
I would like
Ashlyn
to...
is going to lean over to Freya and be like, weren't they just talking last night about keeping on the down low?
Yeah. So Freya has her camera around her neck, and she was taking pictures prepared to document him just looking like an idiot when nothing happened. And when the fire actually like sparks, she drops it, and it just kind of like hangs around her neck. And that's when Ashlyn asks her that, and she just says, "Yeah, did that really just happen?"
Are you still asking that?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Unfortunately, it did.
Okay.
Oh yeah, buddy.
I did manage to snap the picture though before I dropped my camera, so I do actually have photographic evidence of him creating fire from his fingers.
I start aggressively patting him on the back. I'm like, I knew you had it. I knew you had it.
Edgar, you're not sure what just happened, but when that snap of flame went off, there was sort of a fuzzy shield or field in front of you for a moment, which then dropped away. Kind of reminds you of the shovel that you used to move trash and debris a while back.
Yeah. Well, Roland, I think you're definitely a wonder worker.
I will chalk that up to coincidence for the moment.
Really?
No, not at all. I'm writing this down right away.
Okay.
Like, he can't even keep a straight face. He's grinning like an idiot. Like,
So, Ashlyn, in your one pocket, Jack is very slowly, like, looking around with this. Is it safe?
It's all right, Jack.
Freya, by the way,
Yes.
one of the things that you take a picture of is an enormous animal. You're not sure, but you would think it's hard to get its scale, but it's sort of sitting up. I think you've seen one of these before. It's sitting up, balanced by a very thick tail, and it's using the claws on its legs to just go through branches and strip away leaves and twigs and fruit and such. And it's got a head. The head is. I'm trying to think here of something that you may have seen that remind you. Not really a badger, maybe like a pig. Short ears, thick pelt. It's immense. It's bigger than a car, way bigger than a car, and it's definitely. If you're estimating this tree, it's probably 10 or 15, hunched back on its legs. It's 10 or 15 feet tall, and it's not even paying attention to you. It's not all that close, but you've got to zoom so you can zoom in. Okay. And it's basically just ripping a tree. It's stripping a tree, and you can see it using a long tongue to sort of gather up everything it's ripping away from the branches.
I would have taken several pictures of it as we go by, so that Ashlyn can maybe draw it later if she wants to.
Okay. Ruth Freef sees what you're doing, and she sort of, to anybody who's paying attention, because Freya is very busy with her camera, points and says, "Oh, that is the hill that eats leaves."
The hill? The hills actually have eyes? Does it?
I mean, Roland's like, if you think about naming conventions when things were originally created.
Even on our world, there was that one hill that was literally like translated to hill, 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 hill.
Right, and there's like a dozen rivers named River in England because of the Romans.
And the Sahara Desert. Sahara just means desert, so it's desert, desert.
Yeah, so it's primitive naming conventions. Because of how big it is, it's a hill, and it eats leaves, so the hill eats leaves.
We don't know what language they're actually speaking also, right? So
yeah, something.
Yeah.
translating for us, and it seems to do it rather straightforward.
Literally?
Like, I doubt they're called the Leaping People in their own language, but that's how it translates to us.
Wait a minute, hold on. Roland's gonna pull out his phone and like hold it out and be like, "What do you call that thing again?" He's gonna point at the hill that eats leaves.
And she says, "That is the hill that eats leaves."
Okay, Roland's gonna play it back. And it obviously does not sound like the hill that eats leaves.
No.
Okay.
And she said, and then Ruthri says, "Well, if it helps, I've also heard it called the beast that digs caves." The hunters say they make great burrows in the ground.
Interesting. Roland's gonna test saying that name, since he's got a recording, like, to her and see if she, like, seems funny if he alternates between the hill that eats leaves and the word that comes out of the recording. Like, if to her it sounds different.
Give me an intellect roll.
Okay.
That big would need to burrow. Aren't burrowing creatures normally prey?
I mean,
Alright,
bear,
intellect.
right?
What is hunting it?
Alright. I am, okay, so I guess it's not going to count here, so just an intellect roll, okay. I was looking to see if any of my expertises, but no. Those are all academics.
Okay.
Well, I guess no, they wouldn't hibernate like bears do, because there ain't no seasons.
4.
Was that a 4?
It's 4 successes, sorry.
Oh, well, she got 3 successes on perception. So, yes. Yes, that is what it's called.
So when he says it in English, he's going to ask her, do those sound different to you when I say the hill that eats leaves, and then he's going to repeat the word? Do those sound different to you?
And there's this, like, long pause as she puts some thought into it. And let me see here. Let me roll. Oh my God, no successes at all. And so she says, I don't understand what you mean. What sounds different?
Well, let me try. So, we're not actually speaking the same language. Something, because you don't even know what I mean when I say we're speaking English, do you?
Angles?
I thought so. We're speaking, well, like I said, a different language. And it seems something is translating between us.
Okay. Well, Father has always said he could never had any trouble speaking with the traders.
Right, and that's fine. He's just too curious for his own good. It confuses everybody. He's always
Right.
trying to figure out the why behind everything.
It's because I'm a scholar. Granted, I want to learn about magic and become a wizard, but I am a scholar.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
No, that's rude. I ain't gonna say that.
You should
Okay.
say it.
Want-
You should say it, Ashlyn.
It won't be anything I haven't heard before. Say it.
It ain't proper.
Roland is gonna like roll his eyes super hard and just kind of stare at her like. I guarantee you, it's something I've heard before.
You can whisper it to me and I'll tell you. Sorry.
Have you ever heard of, like, not looking a gift horse in the mouth?
Who, me?
Well, I'm pretty sure you've heard of it. Like, do you guys have a saying that's like that? Like, just like don't look. We say like don't look a gift horse in the mouth because that means like Trojans are gonna come stab you in the night. But like, is there an equivalent here? Like, just be glad that it works and not look too deep into it.
It's very obviously some sort of magical effect, which is why I want to know. Some law in this world, potentially, or something about us, translates our words to their language and their language to us. And I want to know. It may be a root cause of why wonder workers exist.
I rather doubt that it's limited to just us, because from what it sounds like, every peoples here came from a different place. And if they've not had any trouble communicating, it's something to do with this place.
And it's a fundamental law of the world, just like in our world,
Hence,
gravity
you ain't gonna
exists.
find out by asking probably anybody looking at the tech level here. So magic's probably the best answer you're gonna get.
I love this place
You're looking
more
for
and
anyway.
more.
So, Vereen says, sorry, not Vereen, Brecca says, well, I have heard that the land that is was made for us, and we were made for the land that is.
I think that's a fairly common creation myth. Or belief.
Yeah, who made the land in your stories?
Now, he's one of the farming people, so he kind of thinks. He says, I think the land always has been.
So like a big bang here.
But how
Well,
can
what
it
was that?
always have been and be made for you?
Okay, I didn't
guess
catch
we're-
that.
I guess we're getting into the whole did anything exist before everything existed whole existential question type thing. Don't mind me.
Yeah, a Ruth Wreath is sort of trying to puzzle that one out too. Ruth Wreath. And she's sort of kind of going over that.
I don't think we study string theory here. As he sees like her like the cogs working in her head, I'm like, why are we asking her? Why are we asking her about relativistic questions and quantum physics?
You don't gotta be so rude.
I'm just saying, like they count their years and seasons, and like I don't get.
And we count hours by lunar months. That
I don't
ain't no
count it by
stranger.
anything. My phone does it.
And your
That's
phone
what the
counts it by lunar
Gregorian
months.
calendar is based off of.
So what you're saying is asking her would be like asking you. So maybe we should. Well, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Message received.
Is it? I don't know. I don't need to know. It works.
No, I ain't gonna say that neither.
I really want to know what you're censoring yourself for. You won't hurt my feelings, I promise.
Well, that one wasn't about you.
I kind of like Freya's idea where you tell her and then
Yeah. You know me. I'll say it. I don't mind.
I know you will. That's why I'm not saying it.
All right.
Look, if you can't be honest with me, we can't really work together. If you're not telling me things, I don't know. If I don't know, then I can't do better.
All right, well, let me put it this way. Edgar, I think you're selling her short when you say it would be like asking Lamar.
fair enough.
Yes.
Like I said, it ain't very nice.
Now, what was it did you have to say about me? Because I know you had something to say.
I'm surprised you managed to get your PhD when you're looking for magic.
Oh, I had to lie through my teeth and say I was researching something else.
Of course.
Which, it helped. It was related to my theory, but that doesn't mean that was my central goal. I mean, I've been called a crackpot and a quack and an idiot and a waste of space and a bunch of other things. And I don't let that bother me because I have a goal in mind. If I never prove it, I never prove it. If I do, then I do. What's the point in having a goal and a dream if you're gonna just let other people decide it's not worth it?
How is it that an isekai fanboy and a professor looking for magic both wound up here together? And why did we have to wind up here with them?
I told you, I should have listened to you. I'm sorry. We should have taken the earlier flight.
In my defense, I was looking for it in our world, not another one.
That's not
Hey.
much of a defense.
I've always wanted to be in an isekai, and I'm just glad I got here without getting hit by Truck-kun. Man.
I mean, we might have gotten hit by Air Truck Coon, just saying. There was a lot of turbulence.
Do you understand what they're talking about, Ashlyn? Because I don't understand a word.
I do, yes.
Okay. Just
There's this common thing in isekai stories that the one that gets isekai'd is hit by a bus and dies in the real world and before waking up in the fantasy world.
okay. I don't.
And it's kind of a running joke.
Oh. Do they not?
So
Do they think we're in a fantasy world?
You don't think we're in a fantasy world? And he's like, look at you dead in your face.
Well, let me put it this way. We were taken from our world while we were on the plane and brought here to this other world. It don't necessarily have to be fantasy. It normally is, but it just means other world.
You see me move over to the leaping lady, and I like kind of touch her floppy ear, and I'm like, we're not in a fantasy world?
Don't touch people, man. That's rude.
yeah, so two things. Freya, when you said I don't understand what they're talking about, Ruth Freeth sort of leans over. She's kind of tall. I think she's. How tall is Freya?
How tall did I say Freya is? 5'4".
Yeah, so she's definitely like 4 inches taller than you. But she leans down when you say, I don't understand what's going on. And she said, oh, thank you, neither did I. And then Lamar reaches over and you see her snap a hand away, like out of the corner of her eye. She sees what he's doing and he goes to touch one of her ears and she, slaps his hand away.
Yeah, if he does that again, feel free to smack him if he touches you without your consent.
That's rude.
My bad. But my point still stands.
So to punctuate this whole bit about fantasy world, I want all of you to roll a perception.
Oh no. I don't like the way you started that sentence. Oh god, I need to get out. I'm stuck.
All right, Roland's too busy in his own notes. I got 0 successes.
Okay.
Oh wow, I did too. Settle.
Freya
Okay.
got 5.
Lord.
5, 4,
I got 4.
4.
3.
Okay. So Freya, once again then, I want you to roll 2d6 and tell me what the two numbers are.
6 and a 1.
6 and a 1.
I'm really happy Freya won this roll.
Uh-oh.
Oh
Is it
no.
another set of gloves?
Oh,
no,
no.
that was just 6 and 6 last time.
No. So, Lamar is kind of too busy seeing if Ruth Frith is going to slap him. Roland is in his notes. Edgar is sort of watching all this going on.
Ashlyn's definitely feeding Jack something.
Right, Ashlyn's. That's right, because you got 0. So Freya, you kind of take a step back from all this and are like looking at like trying to step away from what could be a disaster in the making, and you realize there's off the road in a field is a pile of folded up, and whether Freya, and this is, I'm dead serious when I say this, whether Freya initially realizes it's a stack of folded newspapers or not, but it is definitely, because of the way it's flapping, you definitely realize that's a stack of paper.
And where is it from where we are?
About 10 or 15 feet off among some weeds and tree and grass and plants and things. You can see it sort of poking up above the growth, and it's kind of white and gray, and you thought it was a rock until you realized that the breeze was causing some of the top pages to flap back and forth.
Without thinking, she's gonna walk in that direction because she's so surprised to see it there. She's just gonna, without saying anything, and without thinking, hey, I probably should not wander off of this path, she's gonna wander over there to investigate it more thoroughly.
All right, so Ashlyn and Grolan both had 0 successes. So Edgar, you having the next highest perception, amid all the comedy, you realize that Freya is making a beeline. She's not going that far, but she's making a beeline off the track into the wild, and there's a stack of something that she's walking to, the world's weirdest rock, and then you also realize that as a breeze comes by, the top of it sort of flaps or flutters like a stack of papers not fully secured.
So Edgar walked by and is like, "What do you spot?"
So.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So Freya, as you get closer, you realize that they are newspapers in English, and I'm going to say it's and you can see Times in big text, and it's got the header, and it's got all these rows of text, and there's like a photograph and all that, and you can see the big headline is "All American Squad to Korea."
Okay. I'm gonna continue going closer. I want to actually pick it up and look at the date that's on the newspaper.
Okay. So the rest of you, Edgar, you can see this as well. I'm gonna say you're close, and then Lamar, are you following behind?
Sure. Because you still have to answer my question.
Who hasn't answered your question? Oh, Freya. Right.
Yeah.
I think she's preoccupied. So for Ashlyn and Roland, basically Brecca Vareen and Freeth have all sort of stopped, realizing that some of you are heading over, and Brecca and Vareen by kind of call out, "Freya, what did you find?" And they're sort of, you can see them get into this defensive, like, is it dangerous? Do we get to be heroes now? Kind of pose. And Freya, you need to actually dig. Like, the top one is obviously kind of weather damaged and everything, and it's a little hard to read. So you kind of peel up, and you can pull a much more pristine copy out of the stack. The interesting thing is it looks like it was tied together, like somebody threw a stack of newspapers out of a truck, and I mean, that's how they were bundled. And so you kind of pull one out, and the date is 1951.
Okay.
And you scan the lead story, which is sort of filling the front page, and apparently President Thomas E. Dewey is sending the All-American Squad, and there's a photograph, and the people in that black and white photograph look like they came out of a comic book, and apparently they are costumed superhumans with powers who defended America in World War II, but they're going to Korea to counter the Chinese North Korean menace.
The hell is this?
You say it out loud?
Yeah. I mean, not loudly, but kind of murmuring to myself. And she's just kind of sitting there with this newspaper in her hand, just reading, with a very puzzled look on her face.
Edgar, you can also grab one of you. If you followed her over, you can grab a newspaper and get the same thing.
Edgar's going to grab one, and Edgar. So, Edgar, for those who don't know, Edgar is an archivist. Right, that is what he does. And one of the things that he does is he knows a lot about materials, inks, and things along those lines. Like that is literally partly what he does is the preservation of records, right? So like, does this seem like actual newsprint and like real, like period type paper type things from the 1950s, or is this different?
Well, you know what? If this is what you do, why don't you roll one? Which skill would apply to this?
I would guess academics, because that is that's preservation conservation classes.
Yep. Oh yeah, and you do have a bonus die, so you rolled him academics dice.
And you know what? Just for funsies, I'm going to spend one of my resolves to see if I can explode 6s.
Well, don't spend it until you
right,
actually roll 6s.
You're right. Thank you. I made an amazing roll, including all successes with 2 6s. So
right.
I don't think I'm going to spend the resolve.
Right.
Seven
successes. Okay, you didn't get any more 6s, did you?
I got 2 6s. I have 7 successes total, 2 of which are 6s.
Okay. Are you going to explode those?
Oh, what the heck? Yes, I will. I have a lot. I will explode those 6s. Yes.
Okay.
So that's
if you
roll the 2. Yeah.
If you roll 6s again, they keep going.
I rolled 1 6, so that is 9.
8 successes? 9. Yeah.
9, 10. 10 successes total.
Okay, so for just to let everybody
Out of how many
know,
dice, though?
5 dice.
Right, just to let everybody know, for those following at home. Now, let me also reiterate for everybody who can explode 6s. I don't want a reminder. I'm not trying to run everybody through the game because we've all played. But as a reminder for those who can explode 6s, yes, do not spend a resolve until you have 6s to explode. If you roll a 6, you can keep going. And just to give you an idea of what you rolled, a threshold or 10 successes is a legendary threshold. And if you're wondering what a legendary threshold is, convince a celestial or infernal being to change their very nature. Also, you can detect something beyond the sensory range of advanced technology. Leap your way up a trail of falling debris to reach the rooftop of a crumbling building, which if you've ever watched Project Echo, she obviously got a legendary agility check to jump from missiles all the way up to a battleship in the air. And if anybody has never watched Project Echo, please do. It's hilarious. Okay, so with 10 successes, you are you're looking at this. You're like closing your eyes and running your fingers across it, and you can feel the ink. You can feel like the dot pattern for the photograph. You can smell it. It is newsprint. It is an amazingly, at least this one, because you pulled out of the middle. This is an amazingly well-preserved 1951 newspaper discussing the Korean War, but mentioning President Dewey and mentioning something called the All-American Squad. Now, there's other articles and things in there which are perfectly in line for 1951. If you flip through it more, there's going to be there might be other articles and elements that sort of discuss the war and costume characters and the Yankees, because it's the 50s and they won constantly. There's everything that you would expect in a 1950s. It looks to be a genuine 1950s newspaper. And interestingly enough, the ones that are on the top that first caught Freya's attention, which she sort of skipped, are beginning to decay and come apart due to weather and rain, like you would expect. And the ones at the bottom you also are expecting are basically soaking up moisture from the ground and also decaying. And it's a stack roughly as tall as you would toss off a truck when newspapers were delivered to stands. So it's like a couple of feet tall, and you can sort of probably see, oh yeah, look, the strings have broke at some point, and they're laying around it, but it looks to be a genuine newspaper from about 1951.
So while everyone stopped, so I guess Edgar's going to look at this, and he says, "So I haven't talked a lot to y'all about what I do, but I said librarian. Technically, I'm an archivist. Technically, those aren't the same thing, but they're close enough. And my HR talk. Anyway, let's not get into that. This there's a couple. I'm sure you know, Roland. There's a couple of possibilities here, and I'm going to guess that different people in this group will have different ideas about what the possibilities are. So I will say this is legitimate newsprint. Like, this is something that was made with our technologies. All right, this is print. This is ink, circa the 1950s, like it says. That is completely legitimate for what this paper is. 1, 2, it is not decayed as much as newsprint should be. Right, after however many 70 years, you do not. This stuff should be very brittle, very fragile. Touching it should disintegrate it. It should not be worn like this. That is odd. So, and of course, President Dewey, everyone knows the story of Dewey beats Truman, right? That's not something that happened. And of course, we don't have superheroes. So either this is a really good, recent, incredible recent fraud, right? Or it comes from yet another place, dimension that is really similar to ours, but maybe took a different direction somewhere else. And like I said, I'm going to guess that different people in this group would have different ideas about which one of those theories is correct. This is amazing, and I'm going to keep this, if you don't mind. Oh, there's lots of copies, but I'm going to keep one of these and read through it.
Freya's gonna take one and put it in her bag.
Yeah, Roland's grabbing a couple.
If you subscribe to the multiverse theory.
Exactly.
I have to wonder, Ashlyn, what you do, given you have as much knowledge about these things as Lamar, and sometimes I have to ask, because I know some of these things and I don't know some of these things. The multiverse theory, you do realize, is also one of those things that is, like, potentially one of the reasons we don't have magic in our world. And he's, like, stuffing a newspaper in his bag at the same time. Also, this newspaper has superheroes in it. That's kind of cool.
Oh, is this the Berenstain Bears thing? Is this what's happening?
I'm pretty sure that was just a font mishap. Or misprints, given how old they were. But I have a very shallow knowledge of a lot of things. That's it.
Do we
What
see...
do you do?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Freya.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you do, Ashlyn?
I write.
Oh, okay, so a writer knows a lot of things about a lot of things. That makes a lot of sense.
She's very talented.
Oh, what kind of stuff do you write?
Wait, you write? I see you sketching all the time.
Yeah, I also do that.
She has a lot of talents.
I mean, it's not like it pays the bills or nothing. Technically, Mom and Dad still do that. Or, well, their money does. But, I mean, that's what I do. I write stories.
Interesting. Are you published?
In a manner of speaking. I guess that would technically be self-publishing.
Interesting. You'll have to, if we ever get back to our world, you have to give me a link so I can read your writing.
Absolutely not.
Why not? I can give you links for some of my writings. They're actual legitimate papers about, actual things and history and unusual finds. As opposed to magic, because nobody's going to publish my papers on magic, and I'm not going to be able to get funding if I don't write legitimate papers on actual history and stuff like that.
That's the truth.
Right. Freya, can you grab me a copy of one of those?
Of course. So I'd grab an extra couple copies and hand one to Ashlyn and put a couple in my bag. Do we see anything else?
I'm going to grab the remainder that are dry and not decaying, because
Okay.
There's no toilet paper in this universe, right?
Not that you've seen so far.
Got some. Dibs.
I mean, you probably could have asked Ashlyn. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some in that magic bag.
Oh, do you got 3-ply in there?
I don't think it's magic.
Dude, just go in there elbow deep and see what you pull out.
3-ply?
Dude, yeah, quilted northern out here would be gold. Are you serious?
If
Trying to
y'all
wipe with bamboo leaves is not my cup of tea, my guy.
You know, we ain't never gonna get there if this continues this way.
That's a good point. We should get back to walking.
We're not gonna get there if we have swamp ass either. All right, we need to wipe.
Let's keep moving.
Why are you so crude?
Huh? Why not? I'm just being honest. You know it'd feel good. All right, never mind. You just gotta walk down the street.
Honest don't mean you gotta be so crude. You can get your thoughts across in a much better way.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
So Freya, while you're looking at the paper, you realize that Uthfrith is sort of looking over your shoulder, which for her is very easy. And you know, you're like flipping through it, and you hear her say, "Do these symbols mean something?"
Which symbols? And I kind of hold the
And
paper.
she points at basically just all the text.
Oh, they do. They're letters. And she kind of looks at Edgar. Do you maybe want to explain this? Because I think you'll explain it better than I can.
I think your father showed us that that they have markings that represent other characters or other words and such in what he was showing us earlier back at the carpentry shop. And he mentioned that at Ashkam they have messengers who can write messages using these types of marks. This is a similar concept to that. All of this has meaning, that words and meaning and such like that that can be used to convey information. And that's what these are. These are we call these newspapers.
Yeah, and she reaches out and like runs the paper between her fingers and says, "That is far finer than any sheet I have seen a scribe write on."
I really want to see the sheets your scribes write on, but creating this type of material takes some relatively advanced technologies that might not be easily available. That's what's happening here. There are trade-offs to that. The trade-offs are like this is really fragile and flimsy, but it's also for us very inexpensive. So that's kind of that's part of the trade-off here. This is considered disposable for a large extent where we come from. Anyway, there's a lot here. So I'm really interested in meeting with your scribes to figure out what you all do for recording this type of information or sending messages or things like that.
You know how I cannot remember her name.
Guthrie?
No, the farm person, the farming
Laura?
person who.
Meloditha.
No, the girl who we rescued.
Guthrie? Vilger?
Guthrie, that one, I think.
That's the one I said first.
Is it?
It is.
I'm
Yeah.
bad with names. I'm so sorry. Anyway, you know how she learned the stories, right? She was taught by the stories by, her family. We moved.
And then that's and so you go, no, that would be Vilgirth. She's been taught many stories by Mother Geetha.
There you go. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. I apologize. Anyway, we moved from a society that told stories and passed them along the generations to a people who used markings to keep our histories, because it was not necessarily more accurate, but that meant that it was easier to teach the next generation. That's one of the reasons we developed paper like this.
Like the merchants and the trade caravans write down everything that they trade.
Yes.
Yep.
I think there's a theory that that's what prompted writing to begin with. Was ledgers and the like.
Yeah, there's many theories about that.
See, and if you think this is fine, wait till you touch 3-ply.
Why do we keep
You're
letting him
really-
talk?
By the way, Lamar, did you see the comment addressed to you in the chat? In the main Discord chat?
Oh, let's see.
So one of the things
Oh,
on
it
your
is very
chart.
clean there.
That's
Yeah,
one of the things on
when
your
that-
random chart.
Yeah, so yeah, it's one of the number 55 or number 55 is in fact a Berenstein bear as opposed to a Bernstein bear because that was a big deal and I thought it would be. And you mentioned it out of the blue and I was like, oh my god. All right,
I'm back to
so you obviously the party moves in fits and starts because there's discussion while walking and sometimes everything grinds to a halt as an argument is had or ideas are hammered out or and exchanged. But eventually, roughly a bit after noon, which is about a half day's walk, you come to the outskirts of Ashkam. Now Ashkam, once again, you can tell you're coming to it because you can see all the cook fire smokes and such rising above it. You also pass fields of crops all around it. But the one thing that you begin to realize, it is significantly bigger than Fearcat. There is the similar earthen berm with the wooden palisade up on it, and once again the track comes to a gate, and what you see out at the gate is you see an individual in a thick long sleeve tunic, loose trousers, and these sturdy boots that have been like wrapped with a strip and then buckled that come up to about a knee, and then over that they have a short sleeve hauberk of mail, which anybody who's watched a Lord of the Rings movie in the last 20 years, that's the kind of thing that they have on, and it's little tiny rings that have been riveted together and then interlaced to make a flexible coat, and it's short sleeve, so it goes from about the elbow to just above the knee, and then they have a heavy leather belt around that, on which you can see a pouch or two, a long knife, a very long fighting knife, the kind of knives that everybody seems to carry, and there is a sword in a scabbard hanging off of that. They have a shield slung across their back, significantly larger than thicker than the shields that Breck and Vereen are carrying. And there's two of them, and one has a long spear, similar to the ones that Breck and Vereen are carrying, and the one that Lamar chopped in half, but a slightly sturdier shaft, a little bit longer, a slightly bigger head, and the other one has resting on one shoulder is an axe, a very long hafted axe, probably 5 feet of haft. And for anybody used to cutting wood, the blade is significantly thinner. And as you come up to them, basically you're told, depending on who you are and who's standing next to you, so that there's sort of a whispered, "Ooh, Huskarls," which you understand mean housemen. And what you see is both of them are people you have not seen before. One of them looks to be male, the other one looks to be female. They both have a complete pelt, but they look human, but they have a very fine layer of fur over the face. But they have ears like the hunting people, so they have big cat-like ears and tails. And one of them has dark gunmetal gray fur, and hair that comes down over her shoulders, and is sort of flowing down a bit, and it's much lighter. and then the other one is medium brown fur pelt, and his hair is dark gray and also worn kind of long, and they look a bit bored. But it looks like you know, you can't see the other exits or entrances because the outer wall in the village or the town is that big, and it stretches about. And the two of them kind of curiously look at you as you come up, and Breck and Vereen get out in front, and they announce you all, and they say, and they basically, it's the two of them. They don't stop you, but they just sort of watch you come up and walk by if you want. But Breck and Vereen kind of stop, and they sort of stand themselves up, and they try to look as good as they can. And you realize that there's a huge difference between these two individuals in armor, in real armor, and your two friends who are doing the best they can. And they say, we are here from Fearcat, and we have come to the market, and this is Ruth Freeth. And then they say, this is Ashlyn, Edgar, Freya, Lamar, and Roland. And when they give Roland's name, they both kind of lean in. He's a wonder worker. And you kind of get this look on the two Huskarls, and there's a bit of a shrug, and they kind of wave you on in. And the woman says, wonder worker or not, don't make any trouble in the marketplace. And then, no.
I'll make sure it tastes good.
And Ruth looks almost a little embarrassed, like, oh God, you two, you're embarrassing me. Just shut up and go. You know, that whole, they're fanboying. Oh my God, I don't want to look. And, you can pass on by. Now, they're both pretty tall. You've noticed there's not a lot of you haven't seen a lot of short people, maybe because everybody gets a lot to eat, and there isn't lean years, and maybe because if there's no change of seasons and they're constantly growing food and such. But the other thing, Lamar, is these two are wearing. I mean, this is the real thing. I don't know if Lamar watches like Game of Thrones or Norsemen or any of that other stuff, but you actually realize this is the real deal. This is stuff that they live in and move in and wear all the time and fight in. And this is real gear. This is not the stuff that you see at a mall shop or from museum replicas and everything. I mean, that axe looks pretty sharp, and it's got a weirdly thin blade. Not sure if Lamar would understand the difference, but the rest of you may wonder, like, that's an axe, but you think wood axe, big, thick, heavy. No, this blade is very thin.
It's a Dane axe, essentially.
It's basically it roughly looks like a Danish axe, yeah.
So he's gonna let the crew go ahead. He kind of wants to like talk with these Huskarls a little bit.
Okay. We'll get to the crew in a moment then. Lamar, what do you...
So, you guys these Huskarls I keep hearing about?
So the brown-furred one, he says, yes, Astrid and I are both Huskarls. And Astrid looks and says, what happened to your spear?
Oh, yeah. Kind of broke it. I mean, no big deal, though. Like, I mean, it's a feature, not a bug. But yeah.
You broke it on what? Were you in a fight?
Oh, I broke it on the road.
Broke it on purpose.
Well, yeah, like when we were traveling.
What did you encounter to break your spear?
Boredom, I guess. But yeah.
So the brown one says, you broke it on purpose?
Yeah, I was trying to use it in tandem with my sword, and yeah, it wasn't quite working the way I thought. But after I shortened it, became a lot more manageable to use both at the same time.
They look at you, and there's a stop start, and then finally, and his name is Dagobert, says, "Why would you want to fight with a spear and sword at the same time?"
And he hops back out of measure, right? And then so he just kind of like starts spinning and twirling around. So like he wants to make sure that they're not threatened, like at a safe enough distance, right? And then starts twirling around, and like he's like, oh, just because it looks cool and it flows well, and yeah. So he's like doing obi-Onis with the spear and the katana and whatnot.
They look at each other and look back at you, and you're not sure, but you think both of them are trying not to laugh. And Astrid finally says, "No twirling in the marketplace."
Oh, I mean, how where's the marketplace? Is there like a barrier? Does it say, is there a sign or something?
Just no twirling when we're inside the gates. How's that?
Oh, okay, yeah. Obviously, I'm not a savage.
And Roland's gonna lean over to Ashland and be like, "And you were afraid of me causing a problem?"
Well, I think we had gone. He like.
You guys could have stopped. Yeah, you can have stopped realizing he's. Yeah.
And how do I get some of this armor? That looks cool. Like, do you guys have like a payment plan? Do you guys take credit?
So Dagobert says, there is a dealer in weapons within the market. You can ask there.
Okay. But I can't twirl while I'm asking him, right?
You can't what?
Said I can't twirl while I'm asking him because he's in the marketplace, right?
Yeah, Astrid goes, "No, leave your sword in your sheath."
Perfectly understandable. Yeah. Yeah. And then he sheathes his sword. And is it customary to bow? Like, do you guys do like a salute or anything?
To the Jarl, yes.
Oh, but to no one else? He kind of sits up, he's like, gives a knowing look. I got you. Have a good one. Starts walking down the street.
So the rest of you, if anybody's paying attention, the two of them watch Lamar with a mixture of, is he going to be trouble, and total disbelief.
I mean, that's kind of how we look at him too.
And we'll have a brief cutscene as we get back to the two of them. Have you ever seen anyone fight? No. Whirling? Sword and spear? I don't what does he think he's doing? And they're and they just, for a few minutes, are talking back and forth, like just totally at a loss as to what they just saw. So, as all of you come in, you begin to realize that yes, as opposed to 4 houses in the next shape, there are 16. There are 4 sets of these long houses arrayed in a square around a central market. Now there's more sort of around behind that. And the central market is a variety of booths and little buildings and halls and such. And what you also notice is that if you look to sunward, there is a road, a stone flagged road that looks to be made of the same material as the plaza where you spent the night with all the pyramids and obelisks. And it's very broad. It's maybe 40, 50 feet wide, and it runs fairly straight sunward away from the village and away from everything, and apparently deeper into the world. And you are surrounded by a market. You see a number of peoples. You see the peoples that you've seen so far, hunting and farming and leaping. And you now realize that there's apparently the aptly named furred people who pretty much look like a human or one of the hunting people, but with a full pelt. So they're one step up the cat girl scale for Lamar. And you see, the kind of business going on. You see some more of these Huskarls in armor looking over, like making sure nothing is getting out of hand in the market. Probably the single most notable thing that you see is a cart with a horse, and there is an individual who is very tall, over 6 feet, lean, with a long padded coat, very kind of elaborately decorated with buttons and trim, blousey trousers, really weird boots, and he has a sword, or they, so you can't really tell, has a sword on their belt. It's slightly curved, has no real cross guard, but he looks like a humanoid skink. So he looks like a tall 6 foot plus lizard, humanoid lizard with a tail, sort of that smooth, scaled, blunt nose, and he is piling what looks like furs and hides and stuff into this cart and talking to an individual, and they're sort of holding up some of this, and they're pointing at it and examining it and everything, and discussing what they're looking at, and apparently because you really can't tell if it's a he or a she, because there's no indication, but is apparently purchasing hides and furs and leather and such that maybe has been brought in by people around here from the animals that you've seen out in the countryside.
Question. Have we seen other beasts of burden like the horse?
Now you do. There's horses. You've seen, in this case, you can see some large animals, maybe yak-like or oxen-like. There are horses with that weird 3 toes instead of the single toe. There's more of those goats with 4 to 6 horns around the head, or at least something that kind of looks like a goat. Big shaggy pigs, stuff like that. There are at Ashland, you would realize there's scavenger birds all over the place. They're fluttering all about because people are constantly, and you see them, like, if something hits the ground, or if somebody is doing something, they're anywhere where people are looking for scraps and things that have dropped.
Naturally.
So
Kind of curious. Do you have any currency in your bag?
Who'd you ask?
I have my wallet, but I don't think that means much here. I think, and taking a look around, does it look like they have a monetary system, or does it look like bartering?
You see a little bit of both. At one point, you see an individual with a set of scales, and they are dropping, like, they have weights on one hand, and they're dropping coins and pieces of what look like silvery metal, and they're talking to the person who's doing the buying. They're sort of talking back and forth, and they're trying to get the scales to balance out. And you actually see a coin get pulled out, and then they have the weirdest pair of scissors. It's not they're holding it almost entirely in their hand, and they squeeze down and then dropped it, and you can see it level, and they agree on a price, but they actually look like they just chopped or cut a coin in half.
I'm just wondering, as you were grabbing some unexpected stuff out of your bag, just curious if you had any local currency or anything like that.
I'm still not sure how that happened or why it happened, honestly.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna go. Is there an armor within sight?
All right, so let me do what obviously needs to be done. Your three companions look at you, and Uthfrith says because it was her idea, sort of her idea to begin with. Do you know what you want? Do you know where you need to go?
Oh, who, me? Yes. Armor and swords and clothes. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm trying to get some otherworldly drip going.
So she points and says, weapons and armor are there. And then she points in another direction and says, Ra'akaya sells clothes.
Alrighty. So I'm going to head towards the armor.
Hang on, I know that I want to stop by the scribes, but I'm also very wary of splitting the party. So
I was gonna accompany you to the scribes because that's kind of where I want to head to.
Me too.
I think Lamar can take care of himself, don't you?
Just because Freya does not want to be left alone with Lamar, she all of a sudden really wants to go to the scribes.
Lamar, you good, Lamar?
Oh,
You'll be okay.
He's already he kept walking like.
Yeah.
Okay.
That tracks.
If he finds himself in any trouble, we don't know him.
That's fair.
That sounds good to me.
I mean, technically we don't know him, so that's okay.
Yeah.
I can't. And Roland pulls out his phone and goes, "No bars. I can't send him a text."
So
You got it. Go ahead.
Uthfrith points in another direction and says, here we go, and says, I believe the scribe is there. Breck and Vereen look at you all and say, should we go with him?
I think that might be a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if you wonder if he doesn't need us, we'll be, and they point at a building, we'll be in the mead hall. And then they go trailing after Lamar. And Ruthfree says, that's a good idea. I have things to look for. I have purchases, things to buy or trade for. Why don't we meet there? By the time we're done, it'll be too late to go back, so we can spend the night there.
Okay.
Sounds
that sounds
good.
good. Yeah.
And then she looks at all of you. Are you all going to be okay?
We'll manage.
We'll be fine. Thank you.
I appreciate your concern, but I'm pretty sure we can keep out of trouble for a little while.
I'm not so sure about
Most of
Lamar,
us.
though.
Yeah, but I'm not so sure about Brecca, Vereen, and Lamar. Their enthusiasm. And she sort of walks off. All right, so Lamar, you got to talk to the guards on your own, so we'll go to the scribe this time. So the four of you head over, and there is a small building. It's kind of like a very small longhouse. It's sort of built a little bit like that, and it has doors that are open on one end, and you come in, and what you see inside is it looks like it's split in half. So there's a small room in the front, and you figure in the back might be living quarters, but there is one of the hunting people there, dressed in fairly fine-ish clothing, the same sort of style as everybody else wears, which is the long sleeve tunic and a short sleeve tunic and trousers, but a little bit higher quality, a little bit better embroidery and trim and edging, and he is sitting at on a low stool in front of a sort of a tilted table, and surrounded by like you can see bundles of very fine leather. You can see some small, things of paper. You can see assorted tools and things, scrapers and all that. A collection of quills and such, inks and things. And he is slowly writing something, and looks up when you come up, and then stands and says, "Oh, greetings, I'm Arindi the scribe. How can I help you?"
I'll let someone else talk first this time.
Hi there, Randy. My name is Ashlyn. That is Edgar, Freya, and Roland. And, well, let's just say we're new around here and really curious about, well, the history of this place, really.
I can tell you some, but you may want to speak to Bran, a skald. He's usually in the mead hall and he can tell you more. What do you need to know?
I do have things I'd like to ask. Roland, did you have stuff? Or Freya, did you have things you wanted to ask as well? I have really technical questions, so if you do.
No, you can go ahead.
A lot of my questions can wait for the scald, but I think you and I are about as interested in the writing, because the technical aspect of that means it might be useful later. So
we just came from Fearcat, and we heard about the scribe here at Ashkam, so we had to come and look. Roland and I jobs are similar to scribes in our area, but a bit different. So we were wondering a little bit about your, like, looking around. What can I tell? What is it? Paper, parchment, vellum? Like what are these things?
There's what looks to be sheets of parchment, and sheets, which is in this case. So I'm not going to make you roll for this one because this is in your expertise. So in this case, parchment and vellum are both animal skin still. So parchment paper is probably not a thing. And you probably know what vellum actually is, which is something you may not want to share with your friends. So he looks like he has sheets of parchment, sheets of vellum, which is very fine, and then thicker, larger sheets of leather. You can get a glimpse of what he's doing, and he's writing something out, and everything looks to be straight strokes, along with some dots and dashes. You're not sure, they look to be. You're not sure if they're, from that some of these. It's a semi-runic language or alphabet, or not even alphabet. It's like a runic writing system. So some of this may be in not necessarily letters, but sounds that are grouped together, and some may actually indicate an entire word. The other thing that I'm going to give you, because you've got 5 dice in academics, and you could standard effect for a 3, which is pretty good, is you realize that the writing system can be easily carved and etched. So it's good for wood, metal, and stone, but also can be easily written. And it's all, like I said, straight strokes and such. And he's writing something out, a missive or letter, maybe something formal. You're not sure if what he's working from. But that's how it's constructed.
So I have a question that leans more into Roland's expertise. in like history and such. Does this remind him more of like Nordic runes or something like cuneiform or like a mix of the two?
It's actually like a mix of the two. You know, cuneiform was obviously meant to be written in clay with a stylus. So you just did a patterning. This is like a mixture of the two. Uh, it's it's not like you can go, oh, that's definitely this, oh, that's definitely that, but you can see that sort of stylistic way of writing. It's like a mixture of that.
What kind of tool is he using to write with? Is it
He's right.
is,
He's writing with what looks to be a cut down feather. It's not a big. It's a quill pen, but it doesn't have the big floofy. It's been all stripped down, so it's just like a dip pen.
right, but is it all like flat, or does it look like it has like certain edges for him to create like thicker lines just by changing the angle?
No, it looks to be basically it's just a flat. The lines themselves that he's writing out don't really. It's not like you're doing Gothic calligraphy where you can get as you rotate the pen, you can get the thick and thin. No, this is pretty much.
So it's precision rather than okay.
Yeah.
So Edgar's going to bring out his journal, which is a journal that you write in, and his fountain pen, which is an Amiki vanishing point with an extra fine nib. And he's going to say, so I'm very curious here. We have our own system of writing, and I'm very interested in yours. And he'll open the journal, he'll show him kind of the paper and the pen and ink. And I was wondering, do you have like instructional texts or things that kind of teach the language or anything like that? Something akin to a dictionary?
Roland's going to go digging through his bag, and he's going to pull out his own like writing journal and a sketchbook, which has a slightly different thickness of paper.
Yeah. So yeah.
So
I think y'all might overwhelm the poor man if you press a lot like that. Maybe try and take it a bit slower.
yeah, Arindi just sort of looks at what you're presenting him with, and you can see the ears come up and forward, and he is almost fondling, like he's sort of running his fingers over that and is almost speechless. And finally, where can I get paper like this? This is the smoothest. You have lines in the paper. And he's just sort of lost for a minute there.
I do have knowledge of how the paper is made and how the ink is made, and theoretically knowledge of how it was made earlier, although it might be very complex and you wouldn't exactly get this without some very specialized tools. But I'd be happy to talk to you about that, and I'm really interested in your inks as well. And so Roland will just talk. I'll give other people the opportunity in game to speak, because Edgar will talk just ages on it. And I expect Roland will also talk ages on this, but I'm not speaking for Roland.
Oh no, like this is one of the things they're both like super eager on, because this is history. And while Roland wants to discover magic, he is kind of he doesn't mind what he studied because he likes history.
I have maybe a simpler question, if Edgar would give me a moment to speak. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, go, please.
Roughly how old is your writing system? Like, how many seasons have y'all been writing for? Or I suppose, what would that be? A hand? Oh, dear.
I learned this from my teacher, who learned it from his teacher. Others know how to write like this, but most people don't need to know. We have used this for, and there's like a pause where he's trying to, think, and he says, for as many seasons as I know.
I suppose that would be kind of a rough question at this early ages.
I know that the merchants who come up from great trade road views right in different manners? Is that what you wanted to know?
Well, it was more of a, let's say, higher level question. Like when I say how long have y'all been writing, by y'all, I mean as a society. Like, did you bring it with you when you came from, well, like, what was it? The hunting people came from under the ground and.
Oh.
How many people are in your chain of teachers? Like it's you, your teacher, your teacher's teacher, and so on. Do you know how many generations of you have learned this?
More than I can remember. You have to realize Ashkam was founded more than 1,000 seasons ago. It has been here for a long time.
Roland's going to start trying to do calculations in his head.
And this is the oldest settlement, isn't it? The oldest remaining, anyway. Right?
Well, of the villages here, yes. But there are settlements that must be older. They lie down the great trade road far to sunward.
Right.
I assume that Edgar and Roland kind of look at each other when they get an idea of where to go for older stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was one of the, I can't remember which one. I think it was Vilgirth was saying that if we head sunward from here, there's said to be a large city, and then beyond that, lake so big you can't see the other side, I think is what she said.
Yeah, yes, I've heard that story. There is said to be merchants who come to trade here, say they come and follow the great trade road for several seasons to sunward until it ends at a great lake, bigger than any we have or that you can imagine.
Thank you very much. I will. Please don't badger the man too much.
I think that's
because this may split the party. Arindi looks at you, Edgar, and says, I can show you how to write in our how I write in exchange for some of that paper.
I think that would be a worthwhile exchange, and I can share some information about our papers and inks that might be useful for you depending on what materials you have available.
I would like to learn as well.
Spare notebook
I have something
in my
I can
bag.
trade.
Sorry, Ashlyn, what did you say?
I might have a spare notebook in my bag if you like. I tend to try and keep an empty one on me at all times because you never know when inspiration's going to strike, you know?
I'm still curious what you do. You're a writer, but you won't let us read your words.
I don't even let Freya read it.
She doesn't.
Right.
You wouldn't be interested anyway.
I would because you wrote it.
And yet.
But anyway.
Ashlyn's going to dig in her bag for notebook.
Roland is just going to kind of look at Freya and just kind of like give her an eyebrow and then nod and then like start digging through his bag.
Just like regular 3-ring notebook.
Well, give me, Ashlyn, give me a willpower roll.
Oh, yeah, here we go. What is her willpower? Oh, 4. All right. 1.
Yeah, you produce a pretty basic paper notebook, college ruled, nothing special. But it's paper that he's never seen, and he certainly can only write on one side of it because the ink will bleed right through. So if Edgar and Roland want to basically sit down with Arindi and gain a basic knowledge of the writing system, that's wonderful. If Ashlyn and Freya want to motor on out and wander around the market, that's great. But let's get to Lamar. We're going to take a break in about 8 minutes so that we can refill water and do all that sort of thing. But Lamar, you go walking over to this is sort of a more open hall, and you can see another one of the hunting people there. I love the fact that farming people are supposed to be the most common, and I use a 3d6 chart, and 11, of course, comes up the most common. I never seem to roll farming people when I need to. But you see him standing, you can see him standing there, arms crossed, and you see in behind him, like, there's displays in this hall. It's not a particularly big hall, but it's kind of like going to a Ren fair, and you can see sort of the tilted tables and stuff on the walls, and you can see like the short knives everybody uses, these long knives, including the ones that look long enough to fight with. You can see these sort of simple straight blade, two-edged swords. There's spears, there's long and short axes. You can see leather coats, some of which look to be reinforced with plates. You can see coats of mail. You can see helmets, greaves, and vambraces, the latter two out of leather. The helmets are out of metal. And it's sort of stacked around. Now, the interesting thing is some of the stuff doesn't look local. Like, you've got an idea of what local make looks like, and some of these things look like, no, that's not from around here. It's a completely different style of equipment. And as you come up, he sort of claps his hands together and looks at the three of you and says, are you looking for something to arm yourself with? Something better than what you have? You have come to the right place. I have gear from here and from trade caravans from far away. See anything you like? Let me know. I can tell you, and we can maybe come up with a good price. Everything here, excellent quality. I vouch for all of it.
Yeah. What is the quality of their steel?
It's looks to be reasonably good. Yeah, it's not. You're not sure. I mean, you know that the highest end steel is going to require some pretty serious forging. So you know that the stuff being made in Fearcat is adequate and is going to be reasonably good. You're not sure if you would want to go into battle with the spear. You know, they might be great for hunting. You're not sure 100% for battle. The stuff that you see around here looks to be like definitely made. It's not necessarily the skill of Vidar, but maybe the quality of what he can get. And some of the stuff here is definitely a higher quality, possibly a much bigger, better forge. He's got a more basic smithy, but and also obviously they can draw wire here, which he can't do.
Okay, cool beans.
That's how you're going to make these coats of mail. You have to be able to draw out the metal into wire and then run it around a bar to get the rings. And there's some certain skill with the helmets and some of the other things. You think wood axes, spears, things like that, he's going to do a perfectly fine job, Vidar. But here, yeah, it's probably more than one smith, and it's probably a bigger, more elaborate smithy.
Okay. How does their steel stack up to like modern steels?
You would have to do a pretty close examination, but you're pretty positive that modern steel is going to be much purer because you can get a higher heat and you can do a better job refining before you start making anything with it. So, you know, if your sword is, as you've said, is not a wall hanger, you know, market bought katana or mall katana, it's pretty high quality steel. The stuff that you see around here looks to be pretty serviceable. Some of it looks to have been used. You know, it's there's a term I'm going to use that may or may not make sense to you, which is munitions grade. So if you've ever seen, to a quick aside, if you've ever seen all the Civil War armor from England that's all lined up in rows, a lot of that is what they call munitions grade, which is great for a soldier, but is not like super elaborate high quality.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to find some mail. I say this to the guy, scratching my head, like, yeah, like, so do I have to like stand out like this and you like measure me, or do you have like some coats I could just like slip on, and like, how does this work?
Well, let me see. And he looks over, and Breck and Vereen are absolutely fascinated by this. And Brecca leans over. You can afford a mail coat?
I mean, oh yeah, that's a well. We can, let's find something that fits, and then we'll get there when we get there.
So he brings out one of these hauberks that you see all the Huskarls wearing, and he sort of holds it up to you. How big is Lamar?
He is 6'4", like 210.
So he kind of rotates, and he looks at you, and he looks at that, and he looks at you, and he just puts it back. And he says, well, there's nothing here that's going to fit you. So you actually tower over Brecca and Vereen. Like 5'8", 5'9", maybe. And he says, well, yeah, do this. And he produces a cord, and he's not, he's nowhere near your height. So he starts measuring, and he starts looking at it, and he says, well, I can see if they can make you a coat. It'll take at least a season.
Ooh. And he like leans down. It's like, that's like, he starts doing hands to like 125 days.
At least.
Okay.
You are much taller than most of the Huskarls. It'll take some time to knit this together.
Okay.
So one thing, by the way, that one thing you also will realize, I'll tell this, is that you may have seen, like, you maybe see the guys who do cosplay putting together mail, where they're just twisting. You realize when he holds up one of these coats in front of you, you can barely tell. Some insane person has put little tiny rivets into each ring.
Ooh, riveted mail. That's really good. Okay.
And then he puts it back.
That's gonna be pricey.
Yeah. Okay.
And he kind of, normally, these are 500-600 silver pennies, but you are much taller, 800.
800 silver pennies. Okay. He's gonna take out one of his swords, and he's going to show it to the blacksmith, and it's like, how much would a sword of this quality cost typically?
I've not seen a sword of that style.
Where I come from, it is of the highest quality.
Do you wish it to be jeweled? To have precious metals placed into the hilt and handle?
Oh, no. Like, how much would it typically? Oh, no. Wait, you can do that? Do they, like, when you put jewels and stuff? Does it like make it glow in the light, or like shoot lightning when you wave it? Like, why would you put gems in the sword?
So the three of them kind of look at you. Because it makes it beautiful? Enhances the value. You hear, like, enhances the value? It shows your worth. Shows the worth of the blade?
Yeah, but then I have to like worry about cleaning like blood out of gems and whatnot. Like, I'm needing to use this. I have giants to fight.
Well then, and he points, I have this blade right here. It is a fine blade, used by a Huskarl, given and sold to me when he got a better blade. I can sell it to you, 100 silver pennies.
Oh, no. I mean, like, I want to trade, or would you like a sword like this?
Give me a charm roll.
Alrighty.
It's gonna go so well.
I do have charm. I have 46 in charm. I'll use a don't use it until you get sixes. Gotcha. All right, I got 2, one of which is a 6. Yeah, I'll explode it. I'll use a resolve. Yeah, just a 2.
All right, so if you choose to re-roll all that, you would also re-roll your exploded die.
Oh, so I re-roll all of it?
No, if you choose to re-roll it by spending a resolve, if you don't think a 2 is good enough and you want to re-roll all of it, you would re-roll the 3 dice because you exploded a 6.
Gotcha.
Bear in mind, Chris, a 6 is 2 successes. So if you got like a 5 and a 6, that's 3 successes.
Well then, yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I know when you said 2, you meant 2 dice that were successes, and you said one's a 6. So I wanted to make sure you're counting right.
Yeah.
Don't short yourself.
And then 1 more, so I got 4.
You got 4 successes total.
Indeed.
Okay. Trade this for that.
Oh, I don't need another sword. I'm looking for stuff to cover my squishy bits.
Trade that.
Yeah. Trade that for
He holds his hand out to take a closer look at your sword. If you let him pick it up.
Yeah, by all means. And he just kind of like lets him look at it gleam in the night, in the light and shit.
All right, so he actually picks it up and looks at it, and it is a katana like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, "I have never seen this like. Zihan carries a curved blade, but not like this. Usable for 1 hand or 2. And it's like ting. This is very different. No one has ever seen its like. Perhaps.
Let me blow your mind real quick." And then he takes out a little hammer, and then he knocks out the Makugi pin, and he's like, and he just disassembles the sword, and it only takes like a couple seconds. He's like, for easy maintenance, so it doesn't rust or break.
If you wish to trade this for a coat of mail, yeah, but that'll still take a season to make.
Yeah, I know you're not a miracle worker, but yeah. I'm down for that. It'll take a season. What, do I have to leave this here with you for now, or like I would say half now, half later, but I don't want to break the sword. It just defeats the entire purpose. Like how do we do this?
Well, I will need to ask the armor makers if they will have time to make it, or if they are free yet. They probably are, but I'm only a seller. I'm only a merchant, but I will do what I can. We will need to get your sizes correct.
It might be better just to go straight to the source, right?
Oh, no. They won't talk to you.
Are you sure? I have a pretty nifty blade.
No, no. You need to go through me.
Is there a rule I can see if he's just trying to con me, or if it's an actual rule?
You know what? Your perception versus his charm. Your perception versus his charm.
Alrighty. My perception is 4.
You know what? Can I spend a resolve in his favor to give him an extra dice?
You are nowhere near him, so you have to spend 2.
Fine, I'll do that. I have 8. I can afford to lose some.
Okay. So I get to roll 5 dice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I got 2 6s and a 5, so that's 5 hits.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So, 2 things. One, you think he is slightly trying to bullshit you,
Okay.
but he seems to be serious. And Breck and Vereen are like, "Oh, you probably can't just go and ask for armor from the Jarl." He and so there seems to be a case of he's kind of like a used car salesman type attitude of,
Okay.
yeah, I can get you all the best deals. On the other hand, he does seem to be pretty serious on the, you can't just go over there and start asking them for stuff.
Okay. Thanks. I'll come back here shortly, and he's gonna actually gonna go try to find the Jarl.
Okay. Well, you know what? Let's take that break right now, and I will see everybody in about 10 or 15 minutes.
Mhm.
All right. So let's go back to the scribe. Lamar, you are now in search of the Jarl, and you have Breck and Vereen trailing behind you, and they're sort of, you're going to talk to the Jarl? You sure?
Like, why not? Like, he looks around, or like people impaled on spikes or hanging from trees or something around, or anything like that.
No.
Okay. Well, yeah, it seems. I mean, like, I'm already helping out, right? Like, I help save some of his constituents. Is that what you guys call yourselves? Right? And then, like, I'm help him drive off giants from his lands, right?
Well, I guess we could tell him that there are giant people that need to be driven out. Sometimes, if there's too many, he'll send Huskarls to help us. But we should see if we have wonder workers. We have a wonder worker on our side. Yeah, we can do it.
Yeah. See, good idea, right? And he like starts nodding, trying to like hype the girls up.
The guys
up.
Guys.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to the scribe. Roland and Edgar are sort of now involved with Arindi being shown how to write and an understanding of the characters and sort of going through it with a basic lesson. Do Ashlyn and Freya decide this is, okay, they're gonna be doing this for a while and decide to head out into the marketplace on their own?
Yeah, Ashlyn wants to head out to the market. She just wants to start sketching and like the different peoples now that she sees, and just, everything.
Okay.
Probably for a couple hours before. Oh yeah, we should go see the Scald because stories and history.
I will say every few minutes, Edgar looks up because he's listening for explosions since Lamar was off by himself.
Freya, if Ashlyn is going to sketch, are you doing anything in particular?
People watching and taking pictures.
Okay. So eventually, while Edgar and Roland are getting a lesson in how the language is written and what the characters mean, and sort of getting an understanding of what it is Arindi does, and he writes down decrees and letters and writs and notes and things, basically messages which people need to have physically documented, and then they may get sent or stored or kept or something, but that people understand sort of like this is, especially if like a law is put down, it's often written out. Or he may write something out so that somebody else can engrave it or such. You realize Herger understands this language, but he probably doesn't understand it to the depth that Arindi does. Herger can write significantly more simpler sentence, but then all he's probably doing is carving so-and-so, like I made this, or so-and-so owns this on things that he makes. So Ashlyn, actually, it'd be Freya. Well, no, both of you are sketching. So you're people watching. You see, like I said, you see some other people and peoples of different types. And then you see Lamar come walking out of this one building, trailed by Brecca and Vereen, and they come out, and all of a sudden there's a bit of discussion, and they come to a halt. And Lamar, you're kind of like looking around the marketplace, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you decide, well, and then they kind of decide, well, we can tell them that there's giant people near Fearcat. And so with a purpose, the three of them start walking across the marketplace. And Lamar, you can see now Ashlyn and Freya out, Freya with her camera, Ashlyn sketching in her sketchbook.
Are they walking and sketching, or are they like sitting down somewhere?
No, she
They have, yeah, they have sat themselves down.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna kind of like stop, go like, oh yeah, that's them, and I'm just gonna like wave, and I'm like, have you seen the Jarl around?
No. No.
Oh, okay. Ashley.
Why are you looking for him?
Yeah, of course.
Them? Why?
Like, why aren't you?
Because I got no reason to talk to him?
You don't want to talk to the chief around here when we're apparently like demigods or something?
We are not demigods or nothing of the sort.
Wonder work? Who works wonders?
Not you. No,
Demigods.
don't. That's
Demigods work
don't
wonders.
say that. Look, I wouldn't
Superheroes?
know him if I saw him.
Okay. I'm
And
just
neither
saying.
would you, come to think of it. You don't even
I'm
know who
thinking
you're
about the
looking
dude
for.
I'm looking for a guy that probably has, gold somewhere on him, like a lot of gold, or like mead
know that we
all over the
really need
place,
gold.
right?
You do know if you get into trouble, we don't know you. So you will be on your own.
All right, love you too. Bye. And then he like, and so he continues his trek after he realizes they're not gonna come with.
He's gonna get us in
Okay.
trouble, isn't he?
It's gonna
More
get
than likely.
Fearcat in trouble.
I'll be the savior of Fearcat. If you can hear you guys say, bubbling.
No. Roland's not here. I'm just pointing this out of character. He's gonna cause trouble for Fearcat.
All right. Is there like are there like signs that are like y'all's place or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
So Breck and Vereen are kind of looking around, trying to figure out, and they finally point at this big hall that is all heavily decorated, like the cross beams have been carved and such, and it looks way more elaborate than most of the other buildings. And there's a pair of Huskarls out in front, and it's like, that's probably it.
And like he starts making his way up there, and he kind of like talks over his shoulders, like, is there any kind of like special bow or handshake, like something I should know before I like walk up?
I don't know. I've never talked to a Jarl before.
Oh, okay. This is first time for everybody. Okay, I get it. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. I guess in this situation, it's better to be over formal than under formal, right?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. So he starts walking to the Huskarls.
And they're coming in behind. They're trying to match your confidence, and they actually array themselves behind you, and having heard that you fought with your sword a giant person, so they're sort of giving you sort of an escort. Actually, not like sort of. They're trying to escort you behind, coming in behind. So you've flanked in the back on either side, and the two Huskarls just sort of look at you, and it's this little parade with a bemused expression.
He walks up and then he like he's never seen anybody bow, right? In like in okay, just making sure.
No, you
Alright, so
haven't.
he is going to bow at the waist, very deep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then yeah, he's gonna be like, greetings. Yeah, my name's Lamar. Merriweather, third of his name. I've come to speak with what's the Jarl's name? He whispers back to the retinue behind him.
And Brecca says Tharkel.
Oh, yeah, of course, come to visit to see Jarl Thornkill about goings on near Fearcat with the giants people.
So they look totally unimpressed until you finally say giant people. And Breck and Vereen are like, yes, he fought a giant person. There's some near us. We thought that Jarl should know. And the two Huskarls sort of wait here. And one of them turns and goes inside. And there's a pause.
How's the one that's remained? Like, how are they armed and armored?
Same way as you've seen. It's pretty much a standard style of dress. There's minor differences, maybe, in the way the male, some of them may have decorative rings like copper or brass around the neck and the sleeves. Some of them, slight differences in the equipment and maybe not engraving. I'm trying to think here. The way that the decorations on the leather equipment and that sort of a thing. But it seems to be a general. This has become a general standard style of equipment.
Is he? Or are they as tall or taller than me?
Certainly not taller than you. You've not. The tallest person you've met so far is Vidar, who's actually taller than you by a few inches, and his wife is about your height. Most everybody else has been between like 5'8", maybe a little over 6. The reptile guy was definitely taller than most people you've seen, from what you could tell.
Okay. So while the house girl's gone, he's gonna talk to the other one that's there. He's like, so how is the fit? Like, does it itch anywhere, or like it doesn't breathe well? Your armor.
I wear this. He kind of tugs on a sleeve. I wear this so it doesn't pinch.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good looking out. I'm trying to get like you. You looking sharp. I mean, no pun intended. or maybe if you're into the dad jokes.
If you can fight and defeat one of the giant people with that, and he actually looks at your broken spear, and that, looking at your sword, I certainly think the Jarl would take you into his service.
Oh, I mean, I didn't use this yet, but I certainly did use the sword. I would draw it, but I was told not to. All right, so you take it up with Astrid up front if you want me to take it out.
No, she spoke truly. Do not draw weapons in the marketplace.
See, I can follow directions, and he's so proud of himself.
At this point, the other Huskarl comes back out and says, "Tonight, he will speak with you tonight."
Alrighty. Is there like a time? Do you guys do time here? Is it like a 6:30, 7:30, before, after lunch, dinner? Like
around sundown.
Alrighty. We have a plan. All right. Thanks for your time. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting you both. Yeah. I will talk to you guys soon. Oh yeah, what time is it now? Uh,
A bit after midday. It's getting into mid-afternoon.
Alrighty. So I'm gonna head back towards the rest, or where I left Freya and Ashlyn.
Okay. They're still sketching and taking pictures and people watching.
As we see him walking up, Freya leans into Ashlyn and says, "I knew we should have gotten up and moved when he walked away last time."
That's not very nice. We are all here together, for better or for worse.
You know you're the nice one. I'm the mean one. I'm allowed to say mean things.
You could try to be nicer sometimes.
I try.
It's okay.
Sometimes.
I'm starting to take it, like I don't know, like sisterly ribbing.
Sure, you can.
Is that how she shows affection to everybody?
You can take it that way if you want.
Are you gonna? So Lamar, you come up to the two of them and.
Oh yeah. So after sundown, I'm gonna go meet the Jarl. You want to come with?
I'm torn between wanting to say no, because I don't want to get thrown in whatever stands as a jail around here when you get thrown in there, and feeling like we need to go to babysit him. Ashlyn.
I know.
Well, he told him about the giant people, so I think the Jarl wants to hear that.
I mean, you could just trust me to relay the entire thing to them, or you could come give your versions of the story.
I think we need to give our versions of the story.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Should we go get the other two?
When is this you said you're meeting him?
What'd you say?
When is this you said you're meeting him?
It was kind of vague, but like also very specific. He said sundown, so like sundown, so like when the sun it starts to get low.
And do you know where?
Yeah, that way. And he points to the big ornate like meat house that way. Yeah.
All right. Fine.
Well, while we're waiting, we should go to the mead hall.
Yeah, I was about to head that way myself too. I wanted to speak to this skald that's supposedly there.
I like mead.
Are you even old enough to drink?
Barely. And besides, we're in like international waters.
That's not how that works.
It's totally how that works. Like I had my first drink when I was 18 on the boat, and it was legal. They couldn't stop me.
To be fair, I don't think they're gonna card him.
I know, it's a reflex.
All right. Do we want to go get the other two, or do we want to leave them to their writing?
I know, dude. Like they need to take a break. Like no one needs to study for that long. All right.
I'll poke my head in and let them know,
Okay.
and then they can decide.
Okay.
Like by the time Ashlyn is like poking her head in, Roland and Edgar are probably like looking over a piece of text and comparing it to English, and like the few things Roland remembers from the ancient languages, and they're like, okay, so like they're trying. I feel like they're trying to compare notes and actually trying to figure out how this actually works.
So it's a phonetic logogram language, which has both characters that have word meanings, but phonetic sounds that have. This is going to take some time. I think.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Hey, is Lamar in trouble?
I mean, hear an explosion.
Well, we were heading over to the mead hall, but this evening at sundown, apparently he's got a meeting with the Jarl.
Oh no.
Well, according to Brick, it's good because he told I don't know, someone about the giant people thing, and I guess he wants to talk to him about that. Freya and I have decided we're gonna go along just to babysit.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And I mean, y'all are free to come if you want as well. It wouldn't hurt none, I don't suppose. But I'm
Okay.
just letting y'all know.
Thank you very much.
Are there like windows in the archive?
The mini longhouse that we're.
Yeah.
The area where he writes actually is positioned so it catches the sun as it goes across, so it illuminates, and then there's probably some smaller windows into the living area in the back.
I was like, just get a library card and check it out, and like, come eat with us. Like through the window.
Making the books, man.
Freya is like swatting at him. Stop yelling inside the building.
Ashlyn,
I'm outside the building yelling into the building.
Yeah, well, stop.
Ashlyn, does Freya know what a tsundere is?
No, I doubt
what?
she's ever heard the word.
Okay, I don't want to tell her. All right, just checking.
Definitely don't.
But Lamar does, and that's what worries me. So, okay. All right.
Oh, believe me, he's got no chance.
Oh, I believe it. I'm just worried what he thinks. Let me see. So yeah, Roland. I guess maybe we could take a break and come talk to Arindy later on then.
Yeah. Well, we're probably taking up a ton of his time, and he's got work to do.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Thank you very much. We would love to come talk to you again, and of course share what knowledge we have about the paper and inks that are used that we are aware of. I have some ink samples. I had to take them in 3 milliliter. Anyway, ink does weird things on planes, and I had to take them in very small bottles. But I have very small bottles of ink with me right now.
I mean, I have ink pens and colored pencils and regular pencils.
We have lots to talk about. Long story short, but we'll come back. So thank you for your time. And
Did you leave a journal with him? An empty journal?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's for this, you can come anytime. And he sort of carefully puts it away.
Roland is going to actually like pull out a black ballpoint pen
Okay.
because Roland has a few of them, and he's going to go, okay. At some point, we might need a letter of introduction. Can I trade you this for your assistance? This is better suited for that book than any of your inks.
So he tries it out. Oh, certainly he's never seen something that writes like this.
Use it carefully. Once the ink dries, there is no more. It will last a while, though.
I understand how to conserve ink.
Okay. I mean, once I'm out of these pens, I'm done. I don't have any more either, so.
All right. You know what? I just realized something. Let me see if I ever actually established who. All right. I may or may not need you guys to roll 3d6.
Who?
Okay. All right. I don't need you to roll 3d6. Okay. So a lot of you gather together and head over to the mead hall, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a long hall. It is mostly tables. There is sort of a space in the back. It's a rectangular building with several long tables inside. There's a bar, or what you would recognize as a bar, which is sort of a long table or counter. And then there's some doors in the back, which maybe lead to storerooms. The roof is very tall, and it's very highly peaked. there's an individual standing behind the counter who is one of the furred people, and he has like tankards and platters and such out there. You can smell beer and bread, cooking bread and meat and such. And over in one corner, there's one of the leaping people who is sort of working at something that looks like a harp or a lyre. So sort of it's of a vertical stringed instrument with a frame, and they are sort of just sort of tinkering with the strings and practicing and trying things out. Ruth Wreath is in here, and some other individuals who mostly seem to be maybe eating, drinking. You see two of them with a board that has a bunch of pieces on it, and they're sort of playing what looks like checkers or chess or something like a board game that uses counters or figures, and they're moving back and forth. Being late afternoon, it's not particularly crowded in here, and there's two individuals moving about that are sort of checking to see if anyone wants anything. And one of these servers comes up as you all come in and says, please take a table. What do you wish?
How much mead are you able to bring out at one time?
Just bring him one glass of mead for now.
Wait, hang on. Before you ask that question, we should ask Uthreath about currency.
We should probably do that.
I was just hoping. I was just looking to talk to Mr. Brown over there. She points towards the guy with the lyre. I'm assuming that's him.
Yes, the
Sorry,
skull.
that I'm assuming was out of character, despite how it sounded. So, yeah,
we have a companion over there. I think we should probably join our companion before we ask for anything, if that's okay.
Certainly. And they sort of motor off. And Ruth Wreath has that basket that she had on her back is sort of next to her. And if you notice, you can probably tell it has now different stuff in it. So some of the things that were in there before aren't there now, and other things have been added. I honestly have completely forgot what it was she was supposedly shopping for, but it's not particularly important. You just know that there was things that she wanted to get, and items and things, and so you all decided to go. And she is saying that he has like a plate in front of her which has some meat and bread and cheese scraps on it, and she does have sort of a tankard type drinking vessel, and she looks like she's just sort of taking a mid-afternoon meal, late lunch, and does wave you over as you come around and sit.
Alrighty.
Well, did you get everything you need?
No, I haven't gotten anything yet. I mean, I've gotten my cardio in for the day, so that's been good. But I'm gonna go meet the Jarl later. I'm starving.
You are. And then Brecken Vereen, yes, we're going to tell them about the giant people and how they've been seen. Oh, okay. That's good. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and he's gonna give me like a mail code or something. It's gonna be sweet.
He is going to give you a mail code?
I mean, that's implied, right? Like if I become one of his like dudes.
Well, he is known as a ring giver, but I don't think he's going to give you an entire coat.
He's gonna give me a ring. I'm gonna be married or something. Like I'm not ready for that kind of commitment quite yet. Wait, a ring?
It means that he gives gifts.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
She leans over to Freya and basically in a very low voice, is he always like this?
We unfortunately just met, but yes, from what I can tell, he is always like this. I'm so sorry.
So Brecker and Vereen start talking, and eventually some coins and things spill out on the table, and they're trying to like count out how many they have.
I'm gonna actually reach into my chopper backpack, and I'm going to produce that pouch that has all the little coins from the car, and I'm gonna try to compare them to the coins that they pulled out.
So the coins that they pulled out are tiny. They're maybe the size of your thumb, and they're thin. I mean, they're not super thin. These things that you have are about yay big around, and they're kind of thick, and they're not really gold and silver, but they're colored that way. But the coins they have are very small and rather thin. Like I said, they're about that big around. So they are nickel, dime, and maybe quarter sized.
Okay. Like how rigid are the coins that we picked up?
The coins that you
They're
got out
poker
of the
chips, aren't they?
car? Huh? Yeah, they're poker chips. They're pretty thick and durable.
Okay. But they have the appearance of metal and look like gold.
Gold, silver, yeah.
Okay, cool beans. Yeah. From where I'm from, we're incredibly rich. And he pulls up puts on the currency on the table.
This is why I was
Right.
asking if Ashlyn has any currency.
So in fact, let me go a quick around the screen, and I'm going to start with Edgar. Anything that you're doing in here?
So Edgar is basically going to say, yeah, I don't think that the poker chips will work as currency here. Maybe they will because like our journal as a bartering thing. I think you should ask. And also, I do wonder if Ashlyn has currency, whether she knows it or not. That's what Edgar says.
All right, Ashlyn, any actions or other thing that you're doing?
Oh, she was going to talk to Braun,
Okay.
the Skald.
All right. Roland.
He's actually also going to go talk to Braun because history.
Right.
Like,
And
this
Freya.
is like all Roland right here. It's writing and history and learning, and he's like, yes, let's do this.
Okay. Freya.
Freya is at the table with Edgar and Lamar, and she's half paying attention to whatever they're talking about, and half keeping an eye on Ashlyn.
All right. So before we get to Bran the Bard, Aruth sort of picks up one of these coins or these poker chips and looks at it and isn't sure what to make of it and puts it back down. Breck and Vereen are like, is that gold and silver? Is that we could order anything. Why didn't you show that? Why didn't you show that to that's more that could probably pay for a coat.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Chris, you're muted.
Lamar, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. I was just like, I wanted to see what my steel was worth in comparison to their steel. And to see what kind of bargaining power I had before I pulled out the really big coins.
Before you get too excited, this material is not gold and silver.
What are you talking about? Look at it. It's obviously gold and silver. And he kind of like looked over their heads like,
you're gonna meet the Jarl tonight. I think people would be able to tell what this is. We don't want to get kicked out of town here. I'm not saying it's not valuable. it might be valuable, but it's not the same thing as these coins.
Yeah, it's way bigger, obviously. But I mean, but I see what you mean. Like maybe maybe I might not even need it, right? Like I can save my money, be smart with it. After we talk with the y'all, I'll try to spend my money. How about that?
That's a better idea. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it is a better idea.
Yeah, so Ruth, when you mention that, Ruth sort of picks up one of the silver coins and looks at it and kind of taps it and looks at you. You're right, this isn't silver.
Right, so not to
you telling me, like, if it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck.
And on that, we will go to Ashland and Roland. And like I said, you can see that Bron is one of the leaping people. They have very long hair down over their shoulders. They're dressed pretty much in the style that you've seen. That sort of multi-layered tunic. They actually have a short cloak on over everything else, and something that looks kind of like a lyre or a harp or a vertical stringed instrument. And they see the two of you coming up and stop fiddling, and basically you get to speak first.
Hi there. I was told your name's Braun, right? Bran?
Yes.
My name is Ashlyn, and that's
Roland.
Well, I was hoping to chat with you a little bit about what stories you got.
Certainly. What do you wish to hear?
Well, I would love the oldest story you know.
Well, the oldest story that we know would be the story of the hunter of bees. And if it looks like you're waiting to hear that,
Yeah.
they start strumming and close their eyes and begin to recite in a very clear voice. In fact, pretty much the rest of you can hear this rather clearly. They're not talking to you now, they're talking to the hall. And this is what they say. Once, long ago, a boy was born to the farming people. He was a marvel to behold, with skin as white as bone, hair as black as night, and the eyes the color of the sky. As a mere babe, he bawled in hunger, and his mother lifted him to her breast to suck. But he refused the offered nipple, and spoke. "Give me mead," he cried. But the people knew not of mead. So he rose from his crib and went to the entrance of his parents' hut. "I shall go into the forest," he said, "and find the secret of mead, and when I return, I will teach it to you." So the babe went into the forest. He walked far and wide until he found a nest of bees. Ignoring their stings, he dipped one hand to the hive and pulled forth a mass of honeycomb. "There," he said, "now I have the secret of mead." He returned to his village and displayed his golden treasure, and showed the people how to mix it with water and how to make it into mead. And for this deed he was named Hunter of Bees. Satisfied, Hunter of Bees sat down and demanded food, for he was hungry after his travels in the forest. And again he refused his mother's breast. "Bring me meat," he cried, "and dark bread, and rich cheese, and leafy greens, and bowls of mead." The people brought him all he asked for, and as he ate, he grew into full manhood. Tall and strong he was, and well-shaped and comely, despite his strange coloration. After he's eaten his fill, Hunter of Bees went out from his parents' hut and looked at his people. He saw them dressed in rags and living in huts of mud and straw. The people knew not how to work metal, or how to sow grain, or how to shape wood. This was not right, he decided. And as he had taught them the secret of mead, he knew it was his duty to teach the people the secret of other things. So Hunter Bee stood and dressed himself in ragged skins and ill-made furs, and took up a bone knife and a fire-hardened spear, and spoke. I shall go forth into the world and learn all there is to learn, and when I return, I will teach you all I know. And thus Hunter Bees went forth into the world. He walked far and wide, as far as his legs would take him. From the hunting people, Hunter Bees took a wife. She taught him the ways of the hunt. Hunter Bees learned to track prey, how to climb a tree, how to conceal himself, and how to properly skin what he caught. She also taught him how to tan and work with leather, so he may properly clothe himself. And the hunting people taught him the way of the bow, the knife, and the spear. From the leaping people, Hunter Bees took a wife. She taught him the ways of the earth. Hunter Bees learned how to sow crops, how to tend them, and how to harvest what they gave him. She also taught him how to work with cloth, so he may properly clothe himself. And the leaping people taught him the ways of the loom, the needle, and the plow. From the burrowing people, Hunter Bees took a wife. She taught him the ways of metal, how to find it, how to mine it, how to smelt it, and how to forge it into tools. She helped him make his new knife and spear, as well as an axe so he could work wood, and went with him back out into the world. When Hunter Bees returned from the burrowing people, he visited his other wives and showed them all he had learned. The hunting people learned of cloth and metal and wood. The leaping people learned of leather and metal and hunting. The farming people learned of hunting and metal and cloth and grain and wood, and in return taught Hunter Bees' wives the secret of mead. And so, as Hunter Bees' wives taught each other all they had learned, the secret of trade was discovered. And now Hunter Bees looked at his people and found they grew crops, hunted in the forest, and made tools of metal and homes of wood. And he took from the farming people a wife, a woman with skin as black as night, hair as white as bone, and eyes the color of sky. And with his wives at his side, he spoke to the farming people. I shall go forth into the world and learn all there is to learn, and when I return, I will teach you all I know. And thus Hunter Bees went forth into the world with his 4 wives at his side to find the other peoples of the world and learn what they had to teach, so that all peoples of the world would prosper. And at that point, the playing stops, and they look at all of you. Is that what you wanted?
That was great. And can I just say, you have a gorgeous voice.
Thank you.
Roland's gonna look at Ashlyn, and he's sorry, like he's been sitting here quietly thinking, and he looks at Ashlyn. He's like, that really sounds like the formation of their society to me. And I wonder how people are looking at Roland now that he's thinking about, like, he's got the description of the Hunter of Bees, and he's thinking about it like Lamar is a black person. Roland is, he's as nondescript as a human comes. Like, he's about 5'8", tannish skin, dark hair, dark eyes. Well, the only thing about him that's actually not is the fact that his eyes are a strange shade of blue, actually. Like, that's the only thing about him that's unusual. Other than that, he's like super plain, but they don't look anything like any of these other people, and yet none of them seem to have batted an eye.
You have seen, well, first of all, you have seen these farming people across a color spectrum.
Right.
So you've seen red like a red crayon. You've seen green and blue. You may have seen gray. You may have seen someone who is as black as the shirt that you're currently wearing there, player.
Fair enough.
So when he says black, skin as black as night, hair as white as bone, you don't think that's descriptive. You think that's what they believe. Those colors are normal, even if they're a bit of an interesting combination. You have seen some other people, I haven't really made a point of it, but you've seen some people that go beyond the furred. You haven't actually, there's some NPCs that if you interact with will be even additional people. So you begin to think you don't know how many peoples there are, So you are beginning to think that, yeah, there are so many different peoples that may show up that you don't really look all that unusual.
Is there any story of him returning? Or is he still out there?
As far as we know, Hunter Abies has not returned. I know other stories and tales if you wish to hear them.
Oh, I'd love to.
Do you
Freya,
wish?
can I borrow
What-
your
what-
recorder?
Roland pulls out his phone.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget, the recorders aren't gonna. We're gonna hear it in their language, not ours.
Oh, right.
It's one of the reasons why Edgar and I are trying to learn the language.
He says, I know. So, have you heard? So that is the story of how the farming people came to be. Have you heard how the hunting people came to be?
I haven't.
Yeah, actually, you have. That was the
Is that
fire that. And he says, "Have you heard how the leaping people have come to be?" And you've heard that one too. And and then they say, "Have you heard how the furred people came to be?"
I have not.
Before you start, I have a question. You serve as the Skald here, yes?
Yes.
Teaching, telling stories, things of that nature.
Yes.
How many stories do you have that are not necessarily part of your history, but tales of entertainment?
Oh, I know those.
I see.
I can tell you stories of the history of Ashkam, how it was founded over 1,000 seasons ago by peoples fleeing wars far to sunward, and how Ashkam was founded by Jarl Hierfina of the Horn people. He was the first Jarl of Ashkam and oversaw its founding. And Huskarl Vig of the hunting people was a great warrior who drove out nests of giant people and battled great beasts and made the land around us safe to settle. I know that there are tales that I have been told of an immortal wonder worker who is twice as tall as a spear is long, and who has lived for seasons beyond the counting of all, and they rule a city of stone and steel far to sunward, far down the great trade road. And I have heard tales that there is a mead hall like this one, a hand or so days to sunset, where the drinks that are served are as cold as the snow that sometimes falls here.
You get snow here?
Roland perks up at the word snow. Huh. How often?
Occasionally, every season.
Occasionally. All right. Well, I'd be willing to your purpose here is to tell stories to the hall, yes?
Yes.
Would you be willing to perhaps trade stories? I have some stories from my lands.
Of course.
That seems a bit rude just to boil him down to just telling stories.
I mean, everyone
That's
has
just his purpose.
well, I'm boiling it down to something simple because I want to learn, but I also want him to be able to get something out of it, other than just telling us his stories.
I'm always interested in hearing new tales.
See, Roland's gonna smile. All right. Yeah, I would like
story of One Piece.
Of what?
We do not have the years for that, Lamar.
Wait, what? Later. Yeah.
Roland, you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to once there is time later. I assume you were waiting for a request. Yes. Is that what you're?
Well, you had asked for the tale of how the furred people came to be.
Yes. Please.
Hopefully my voice won't crack during this one. I'm very pleased, by the way, with the Tale of Hunter of Bees and how I constructed it. So they start to play again and say, in the beginning, the world was not as we know it now. The furred people lived above the sky in a vast land of plenty where no one was ever ill or hungry. In the center of this land was a great tree known as the Tree of Life, whose branches covered half the land and whose roots descended down through the sky to unknown lands below. It was forbidden for anyone to climb down the roots of the Tree of Life, for fear of disturbing the spirits that dwelled amid them. If angered, the spirits could make the great tree shake, causing branches to fall and crush the land, food to be scarce, and illness to plague the people. And so it was for seasons beyond counting, and the people lived in peace and harmony, not knowing of strife or hunger or even death. But then a child was born to the people who lived above the sky, known as One Who Falls. He was not content to dwell amid the placid people in a land of plenty where nothing was needed, for he knew the wealth of the land above the sky had made the people weak and listless, unwilling to work, to spin cloth, to work with wood or metal, to provide in any way for themselves. Girding himself for what he must do, One Who Falls ignored the taboos of his people, took to the Tree of Life, and climbed down the roots. Along the way he met many spirits, some of whom he fought, some he ignored, and some he befriended. Those who he befriended taught him many things and gave him many gifts. In turn, One Who Falls promised that when he made the lands below his own, the spirits who had aided him would be able to dwell there, free from the roots of the Tree of Life. When One Who Falls reached the tips of the roots, he found a vast ocean with nary a spot of land to be seen. So he dived down into the water until he had found earth and brought it to the air, and then he formed an island where the true roots of the Tree of Life ended. By diving deep into the ocean again and again, and with the aid of the gifts given to him by the spirits, he made his island grow. In time it was large enough to suit One Who Falls, so he walked among the island's hills and valleys, creating the plants and animals his people would need to survive, for he knew the people could not continue to live in the land above the sky. Once he had populated his land, One Who Falls called to the spirits of the roots and asked them to dwell in the new lands below the roots of the Tree of Life. Many did so, but this caused the great tree to sway as the roots slowly became undone once the spirits were no longer there to care for them. But One Who Falls, who had learned many things from the spirits, took up his axe and cut the roots free, so they would fall upon his land and grow into new trees of life. But as he did, the rest of the tree collapsed, bringing the land above the sky with it. Many of the people died when the Tree of Life struck the ground, but many more survived and were welcomed to the halls of One Who Falls. There, One Who Falls taught the people the lessons he had learned from the spirits of the roots, so they could live in this new land. And that is how the furred people say the world came to be.
That's similar to some stories we have back home. Granted, there is only so many ways you can go about creating a creation myth.
True. You have the. I'm assuming you have these creation myths written down since you're reading them.
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a 9,500 word file where I've been creating creation myths and stories and folklore and stuff, and have tried to edit and for a minute there I thought I'd called him He Who Falls and then had screwed it up and put One Who Falls. But yes, this is. I will copy these to the master file later, probably tomorrow.
Okay. Because I don't want you to have to worry about like having to read them all, even though some of the two stories so far have been actually really interesting. And yes, Roland is in fact taking notes as best he can while recording it. By the way, because he wants to have the recording.
So, Roland, what you might find interesting is, in this case, the furred people, their origin comes from a land above the sky, but there's a lot of peoples, especially Native Americans, who talk about coming out of under the ground. So it's an interesting reversal.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well,
So
and they have been they've heard whispers about the what did they call them? The Sky People, and how they supposedly steal children in the night and all of that.
They destroyed one of the towns and ride on spearheads and...
Yes, some 60 to 70 seasons ago, the village of Herat vanished in a night. It used to lie a half-day's travel beyond Firkat. And it is said the Sky People ride upon great spear arrowheads, or the ridgepoles of a longhouse through the air.
Lips? Never mind. I'm not there.
Well, at some point, Roland's gonna... I'm trying to think who's got an interesting creation myth. Oh yeah, he's at some point he's just going to give like the story of the Christian creation myth, just because it's a very simple one. At least according to Roland, it's a simple one.
Okay.
I'm
And
always surprised at that coming from one who believes in magic.
Hey, I had to learn a lot. But yeah, he wants to see the Skald's reaction to that particular creation myth.
He asks you to repeat. They ask you to repeat parts, and sort of work their way through it, and get an understanding of how you're describing and the repetition over a series of days. They don't seem to It doesn't seem to spark any recognition.
Yeah, he's basically telling him the story because it's like, you told me a story, I will tell you a story, and he's going to tell him that this is a myth of how the world the land he comes from. This is one of the stories on how the land came to be.
Oh my God! Sorry, everyone. Did not mean to. And I'm in mountain time. I shouldn't be yawning. You guys on the East Coast it's really late. So Brown says, well, I know a number of other stories of how the world came to be. Each people, many of them tell a different story about how the world came, or how they came into the world.
Yeah, Roland wants to collect those stories.
He says,
so long as he's not interrupting other people making requests.
No, nobody's really making requests. You've seemed to have Brand's attention all to your own. And he says, well, I know the tale of how the Horn people came to be. After all, the first Jarl of Ashkam was of the Horn people. Do you wish to hear that?
Sure.
It is said that long ago, two great princes sought to outdo one another in their mastery of the bow. They competed at the target and at the hunt, but were equally matched. And in battle, they each collected the same number of heads. So it went, season after season. In an effort to prove which was the superior archer, the princes created larger and more powerful bows, using new woods, new strings, new fletchings, and new arrowheads. They also tried foot and flat bows, all to see who could shoot an arrow further, with more power and with greater accuracy. In time, the challenges the two princes made to one another became greater and greater. They sought to see who could split the most arrows shot into a target, who could fire the fastest, who could thread the smallest of rings with an arrow. Finally, the ultimate challenge was given: to shoot an arrow into the sun. On the appointed day, both princes stood in their courtyards, surrounded by their courtiers. They strung their great bows, drew them, and each fired a single arrow. The arrows roared into the sky, their heads cut to cry out their triumph. The princes, for their part, waited to see whose arrow would land on the sun. But the arrows, or at least one, failed in its flight. It traveled the length of the world and beyond to finally fall back to Earth. When it landed, it was full of the light of the sun, for it had come close enough to burn away the fletchings. And when it landed, it shattered, releasing the light within. This is where the Horn people come from. They are the children of the stored light, made into the image of their prince, and presented as a gift to this new land. And as for the princes, it is said they still stand in their courtyards, waiting to see if their arrows have struck home.
At this point, Lamar would have walked up with like a mouthful of cheese and like sat down and is like, "That sounds like Scientology, Children of Light, right?" And that.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Go back to your food.
Okay, my bad. He just kind of sits down, just listening.
Ashlyn definitely will have a sketch or three of Braun, like as he's telling the story. By the time they're done.
Yeah, after getting several stories, Roland's gonna be like, "I'm gonna let your voice rest for a bit because I know telling stories is tiring."
Well, ask. Hold on a quick moment. They say, ask Inar to send over something to drink then.
Okay. Roland's gonna go. If Ashlyn doesn't have any other requests, he's gonna be like, "Come on, we should probably go back to everybody else for the moment."
Ashlyn she's thought about what Edgar has said, and she's going to reach into her bag and see if she can pull out just like one silver whatever they were calling them.
Silver penny.
Yes.
Give me a willpower roll.
I pulled out a lot of weird shit. Let me see if I can do it. Ooh. 2, 4.
You pull out several silver coins.
She's just gonna like to Braun for the stories.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
You've been holding out.
And then she'll like return to their table, just kind of like with the others still like in her hand, and
so you gotta
she'll
believe.
just like sit down next to Edgar and go, "Apparently, I do have some in my bag."
I was actually gonna see how they compared to like American coinage.
Here, she'll pass one over for him to examine.
Yeah, Roland's gonna like pull out his wallet from his own bag and like shell out some coins.
So, first of all, your coins are minted and milled.
Yep.
And these are not. These look to be hand struck. Do not have a milled edge. They are solid silver, so they're softer. They're also, interestingly, not as chrome. Quarters and nickels and dimes are a nickel. I think they're a nickel alloy. Quarters have a copper or a copper sandwich. If you hold them on edge, you can see the copper.
They have a core of copper.
The silver. Yeah. Dimes are the same way, though they're really tiny. So your coins, they're about the same thickness, roughly. But the characters are way cruder. I mean, they're reasonably well stamped, but they're obviously nowhere near as sharply defined. You're not even sure if those are physical individuals or just markings on them. But interestingly, like I said, the silver coins are whiter, and yours are more silver. Oddly enough.
That's not surprising. At least not to Roland.
I am really glad you had those coins, given what Lamar was talking about.
Yeah.
What coins?
Dare I ask?
Roland's gonna pick up one of the silver pennies
Mhm.
and like he's gonna like hold it in both hands and then try and like pull it apart and see if he can make a copy.
Give me a willpower roll.
All right, I'm gonna spend a resolve for this to get an extra
Okay.
dice because I've got a bunch of it.
Now the
Okay.
I'm trying to see how much magic he actually has.
I think now the next concern we have. Well, actually, maybe for Roland to make this roll before saying anything. While you're doing this, I'll say I'm afraid to say things because everything we say is translated. But I wonder. Okay, movies. I don't know if you all watch movies, but how do I say this?
Uh-huh.
The Wolf of Wall Street, The Sting, Chinatown, Ocean's 11, Catch Me If You Can. There's a theme here.
Yeah, he's nothing happens because I got 0 successes. So he's like, okay, I didn't think I could.
You know what? Because
Oh, no.
the night is almost done. I am.
Are you gonna pull out his
You-
unluck?
Yep.
Can't
So
do
you
that to me.
do this, and there's an explosion of literally wooden nickels come spraying, just a rain of about 100 wooden nickels come clattering all over the table and around you and bouncing across the floor.
What did you do?
I was going to say, I have jinx. You have to affect other people, not me.
Yeah, it's the closest I can do. You
Fair
know what? I can spend an adversity, because you and such. I mean, I could have lit other people on fire with your jinx. So yeah, I'm going to spend an adversity for a bizarre misfortune where you do this, and instead of ending up with 2 coins, there's an explosion of literal wooden nickels.
Didn't we talk about keeping a low profile? What are you
I didn't
doing?
expect that.
We don't
How
know.
was
We don't know what to expect.
Apparently,
What were you?
I was. It's not important. I was trying to make a Xerox.
I see.
Ashton will like lean over to Edgar and be like, listening to those creation myth stories, given what we know about this world, it's hard to tell fact from fiction.
Yeah.
So you see a Ruth just reach into her cup and pull out a dripping wet wooden nickel and drop it, and she looks at you and just realizes and just, I thought you made fire.
I was not expecting this. Okay.
Maybe next time we practice when we're not in a bar full of people.
I was not expecting an explosion of wooden coins. Okay.
It does tell me though.
The point is,
Need to worry about.
you were expecting it. You shouldn't have done it here, right?
Yes.
Do I get it right?
Yes.
Can I get a high five?
No.
Ah.
Roland's gonna hold up one hand just because he can't leave him hanging.
I think the next thing. Anyway, next thing we worry about is destroying the economy, but let's not get to that. Yeah. So Lamar,
definitely
no need to try your poker chips now, Lamar.
Alrighty. I mean, they might still have a lot of value.
They might.
Because
We're better off.
over here chopping them up. It's not like they need them to be in whole pieces or
Lamar.
anything like that.
Yeah,
We're
but
better-
aren't
we're-
those plastic?
It's like ting ting ting. It seems like aluminum. It feels right. Am I getting that? Some kind of like lightweight metal, right? Like it feels like plated aluminum. Like it's so soft enough to cut, but it's larger. Looks the same. But
It don't look the same though.
Okay, so
Mhm.
we may still be able to barter them as valuable metals, but not as the stuff that they're actually using as currency. That could very well get us arrested and/or killed because we're trying to cheat merchants. No, thank you.
I'm not cheating them. I'm showing them exactly what it is, and I'm asking if it has value.
What kind of penal system they have?
Good question.
I hate
Oh,
to
grow up.
agree, but he does have a point. We don't know what they consider valuable here. I'm not saying to go try to spend it. I'm just saying it might not be a bad idea to ask if it's worth
Right.
anything
I mean,
here.
bartering is one thing.
He wants to spend it like actual coinage, though.
These are your official coins from the Jarl. Take them because they're worth $1 bajillion. I'm just kind of like, hey, these things are things.
They are things. I think just don't pass them off as their type of coins. Bartering them, I think, is fine. Just don't.
Ashton just kind of like points at Edgar, like that's what I was saying.
Yeah, Roland's gonna like start gathering up the wooden coins.
Okay.
It might be good for like Tinder later.
I need a drink.
Me too.
I really want one. Sorry, Edgar.
You'll look for one of the servers, try to get their attention. Like, can I get one?
Oh, certainly. What can I get you?
I just need a drink. I'm not very picky.
Yeah, and some more cheese.
I'll have a drink too.
So they basically bring around, since you didn't ask for anything more specific, when you say a drink, they presume, well, we serve mead. And unlike, say, a commercial meadery here in the United States, it's not like they have a bunch of different varieties because it's just not capable of doing that. So what you get are cups of warm, not, I mean, we're not warm as in, but not chilled. It's, you know,
Room
which may or may not be what you were expecting.
Looking around,
Of
that's about
mead.
what I expected.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a note for all of you. None of this, none of what you're. I mean, it's not hot, but it's not. If you're want a really chilled drink, not happening.
Unless you want to. No.
I was like, unless Roland.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Look, I'm willing to try it, but don't get
no
mad
way
at me.
Ashlyn suggests it. That was out of character. I'm
That's
just
fine.
saying.
Roland would be willing to try it, but not here. Not after the explosion of wooden nickels.
Yeah. Now, if you and of course there was the comment from Bran about where you can get cold drinks.
Yes, there was. He said, what was it? Half a day's journey?
Yeah.
About a hand a days to sunset.
And a day's, that's right.
Yep.
I have a question. These wooden coins, are they all basically about the same shape and size?
Yeah, they're. Have you ever seen them? I mean, they're literally wooden nickels.
Okay.
They're actually Indian head buffalo wooden nickels, all from like the 20s, and they're wood.
Excellent. I wonder if I could paint these and actually sell them as a checkers game, because those guys are playing something, and checkers is really easy to understand.
How long are you planning on staying here?
I have no idea. I mean, Ashkam just for tonight, but it's something we could think about.
You know, that's
Like-
not what I was asking.
In this world, I have no idea. I mean, I'd love to be able to go home and show off my findings,
know,
but
I think something he said, that City of Stone and Steel towards, what was it,
Sunward.
Sunward? That sounds like it might be some advanced technology,
Yeah,
and it might behoove us to see what exactly it is.
I was thinking the same thing. I was just looking at something we might be able to sell to make some coinage, because we're going to need to be able to fund this trip, and I'm not expecting your Mary Poppins bag to be the one to shoulder the responsibility. These wooden coins are a good start, as long as I've got enough of them.
I wonder if I could sell any of my paintings.
I mean, maybe. Do you have...
I'm not sure. I haven't gotten a hold. I haven't figured out yet how much they value art around here.
Well,
Everything seems rather practical.
I have large size paper that I was using for cartography maps. If you need a slightly larger canvas.
I'm not worried about paper, thank you, though.
I meant for something larger if you wanted a larger project.
She also
Like,
has a Mary Poppins bag.
When are you guys gonna understand that we're demigods?
We're not.
We ain't.
We're
We are
demigods.
not. We are not.
I am not even a. I'm not even a fledgling wizard. Come on.
You just gotta believe. Not with that attitude.
That ain't how.
Oh, boy.
Freya takes her drink and just starts chugging it.
I hope that. I hope that for our sake, the GM has given Ashlyn enough coins to pay for our meal and our probably our stay.
Yes.
Okay.
Ruth Reith.
Yes.
I have a question. So, from what Ashlyn was saying, do people buy and sell art, painting, drawings, paintings, pictures, images?
Who are you asking that?
Ruth Reith.
She thinks. I don't know.
Like,
We have
and
nothing
Ashton will
that
like
as
pull out her
Fearcat.
sketchbook and like turn to the one of the pages of Braun that she sketched of him telling his story. Something like that.
So she looks at that and kind of just sort of stares.
Although that was a really quick sketch. I mean, I have colors. I think I brought my oil pastels. Maybe even if I didn't, I might be able to find some in there.
That is very lifelike.
Well, thank you.
Very talented.
Very much is.
Oh, do I recognize any of the character?
Oh no,
No,
she drew the skull.
Oh, the skull. Okay, there. Okay.
Yeah, she's been drawing a lot of the people and anything novel that she's got a lot. She's like 3 pages entirely full of Jack that she's done just like as she watches it through the day. Just they're really quick and easy, and he's cute.
Roland's actually going to pull a piece of paper out of his, like, one of his notebooks. He's going to, like, tear out a piece of paper and, like, draw essentially a vague checkerboard. And then, like, put the pieces down and be like, anybody want to play checkers with me? Because now I'm trying to see if people are interested in one of our games. It's
So
simple
Ruth
enough. We have the
Ruth
pieces.
looks at you and says, "What is this?"
It's a rough approximation of a game from our homeland.
How's it played?
There's some centralized rules, and why not? She's interested, so Roland is gonna basically walk her through a game of checkers with the standard rules.
Okay.
Even though there's tons of house rules for checkers.
You could totally double jump. He starts trying to.
That's a house rule.
We're in a meat house.
That's not an actual rule to the game of checkers. That's something that people do to make the game go a little faster.
I didn't know there were actual rules to
There
checkers.
are actual rules to checkers. I researched a lot of older pastimes for different things. Because, well, I mean, history.
She got 2 successes, so she picks up on it relatively quickly and says, "This is like TOEFL." Well, perhaps not like TOEFL. And she points at the game the other people were playing. TOEFL.
Interesting.
Which you think the meaning is table? You're not sure.
Right.
It also may be a case of a word that is so old that the root meaning is gone. But you almost certainly win. Only got 2 successes. But also she's never played it before.
Right.
But she's also like, I could make this.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a secret that I could help your family to be able to earn some money, I mean, I'd like to be able to use this to earn some coins because I feel like Ashlyn and I both have the same idea that we need to go sunward. Like, for our own sake.
Sunward is where all the trade caravans come from. They say it takes 2 or 3 seasons to make a complete circuit.
Yeah, but we'll need funds, and if this game can help us out.
You have fire hands.
And that doesn't earn me money. Like I've had to do a lot to be able to get grants to do my research. I know what it's like to be on thin months. I'd rather use something I know to earn us a little money rather than relying on the Mary Poppins bag.
I'd really prefer you not call it that.
So should I call it the Ashland bag?
It's just my bag.
Is there like a spoonful of sugar in that bag?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
So, should I start referring to it as the bag of holding?
If you must.
So, by the way, Ashlyn, Jack is now sitting on the board amid the checkers pieces, helping make moves.
Yes. Oh my god, that's adorable.
And it's reached the point where Ashlyn just points, and he pushes the piece to wherever she points.
Oh my god, I love it.
Ashlyn, Ruth.
Hold on a second. Hold.
Yeah.
Whoa. You're not worried about this? This thing is making play chess move?
It's adorable.
I mean, he's just moving pieces. It's not like
he has an eye for strategy.
he's not making the moves himself. He's just moving them where she tells him to go. I don't know why you think he's more than he is. He's just a
I'm
cute little
telling
scavenger
you.
bird.
I'm telling you, he's waiting on your downfall. It's a scavenger.
That's what cats do, and people
And I
have
keep
them in their
feeding
house.
him.
Cats are adorable too.
There's little
And like cats,
monsters.
you keep them fed and you got nothing to worry about.
Exactly.
They're little monsters.
They are not.
They will eat you if you die. They will not hesitate.
And that's fair enough on him. You quit feeding them.
Right? He has to eat.
They're
Lamar will-
carnivores. What else are they gonna eat?
And besides, if
Lamar
I'm
will-
dead, why do I care? Sorry.
I think that is fair. But now we know Lamar's going to eat us if we die. Just keep that in mind.
I mean,
Is he our cat?
I have other things to eat. You know, like cheese.
I'm just,
Why did we suddenly start
Sure,
talking
here.
about cannibalism?
I have no idea.
He brought it up, not me. I didn't bring up the weird topic that time.
Roland brought up eating dead anyway. So
I was talking
back about the art. Back about the art question. So is art sold anywhere, paintings or anything like that?
Not like this.
But similar. But something sold, like sculptures or things along those lines.
So
Carving.
Ruth says, well, there are carvings go into chests and chairs and tables, or perhaps leather is worked, or jewelry is made. Images like that is different. I have seen things like that on cloth, woven, that come from the merchants. It's not something we need. But some people purchase it, I presume.
That's fair. It is pretty much a luxury item.
And she actually indicates the sleeve of her tunic. Now, thing like this trim, this is good.
I never did get into embroidery.
Was that a question?
No.
Okay.
That was a lament.
Yeah,
I never got into embroidery.
Okay. Yeah. If you can talk at that volume, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Ashlyn's a bit quieter spoken than I am.
Right. And I understand that, but
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So, speaking of like the embroidery, and they're sitting around in the now that there's in some place that's got a wider variety of people, and we've seen some different kinds of clothes. Roland largely wears like sturdy clothing used to stuff that's going to last if he has to go out in the wild for extended periods of time. So his clothing is generally heavier. I'm assuming most of the others are wearing like cotton clothing of some type, like t-shirts, etc. Comparing his clothes and theirs to the stuff that they're seeing, the stuff they have, is it like rough spun cotton? Is it wool? Like, what does it in comparison look like?
It's not anywhere near as finely woven as anything you're wearing.
Obviously, we have machines that do that for us.
Right. It is hand woven. You can see, you can see various levels of weave. So, for example, Bron has finer woven or denserly woven clothing. Most of the people from Fearcat do not have something as fine as that. They have, but they, and it's looks to be wool and cotton. Linen, probably not so much, at least not here. And like velvets and all that, no. And because they wear layers as well, so instead of like say, oh, I'm gonna wear a t-shirt and a thick jacket, no, they just put on like an additional over tunic or a cloak or such. So you kind of know that Ruth is probably wearing 2 or 3 layers, like maybe a thin shirt or tunic, and then this long sleeve over tunic, and then a short sleeve, and she's got this like apron over that. So they're wearing, 2 to 4 layers, depending on how you count it. And it's you've seen sheep or something that looks like sheep and goat, so you figure, yeah. And they probably get cotton around here somewhere, because you've seen what looks like a cottony material or a wool or something that they can make, something that they can spin thread out of and then turn into cloth.
Okay, so I'm actually, now that Roland's kind of paying a little more attention, because he's just kind of, it's one of those things that slipped his mind because he's been thinking. His thought is now, he's surprised that people don't immediately think they're rich, or maybe they do, and that's why some people are afraid of us. Or like the merchant was trying to, potentially, use car salesman Lamar.
Yeah.
Fine clothing means people are rich.
So that's why I was like, hey, So we literally showed up to medieval town with modern stuff. Well, you know how much we would have blown their. Pull out your cell phone, and it is the God box. It has all the stuff. It can do anything and everything. It could steal your soul and put it in there. Take a picture of it. Like you gotta get in the mindset.
We're not villains, and you're talking about stealing souls. We're not bad people, unless you're a bad person. Are you a bad person? I didn't think you were a bad person.
How is giving someone from the Stone Age like a cell phone and showing them mystical things that they've never seen before making me a bad guy?
You were talking about stealing souls. You were talking about stealing souls, which they don't actually do. That was something that
people used to say back in the day, like with pictures. That's what they were afraid of, right? When you had to stand there for like 5 days for it to develop. These are people who have not seen a screen before. A screen. This whole concept is alien to them. If I was back in the day and you just showed me some stuff that showed me anime, my brain would leak out of my ears. Am I wrong?
You can see Ashlyn holding something back, like she had a thought, and you can see it on her face, like, no, don't say that, that's mean.
Yes, I know anime already leaks out of my ears. Or I might not have any brain in between my ears. Whatever you're going to say, you're right. But that's not the point. Am I wrong about this?
As you hold that in, Freya, without thinking about it, says, is there a way we can make that happen? Is that a thing?
Make what happen? I lost track of what he was saying.
He said something about making his brain leak out of his ears. Is that like a thing we can do?
I mean, you might be too late on that one.
I don't think we get anything more than a trickle.
You're both right.
All right,
You're
Lamar.
a bad influence on me, Freya.
Thank you.
You guys are wild. Like, you've never thought about what you would do if you went back in time with modern stuff. You actually get to do it, and you're like, this is real. I can't ask people are hammering out random
Lamar.
things with hammers. Are you?
Lamar.
This is a very different situation than that.
Lamar, I want you to think about this very carefully. Think about this very carefully, all right?
Mhm.
I want you to get a rough head count of the number of people in this room.
Gotcha.
How many of those people have weapons?
All of them.
How many of us have weapons?
Me?
Yeah. This is why we're trying to be careful. We are outnumbered if we cause a problem.
It's not. See, I need you to understand how I'm thinking. Have I beat anybody up? Have I threatened anybody? Have I stolen from anybody? I have goods that are way more valuable than anything that they have, and it's
And
true.
what happens if your phone dies?
Like I'm swindling them. I'm not.
So-
At home, this stuff is worth bajillions of dollars. Poor people don't have the stuff we have. We rode on a fucking plane through the sky into some other dimension, guy. Like, why are you treating me like I'm lying or being deceitful? My stuff is actually valuable. This stuff is alien to them. My sword is better than all the swords in here. I just checked. Your clothes have a higher thread count than everybody's in here. We just checked.
So
Why are you
all
treating
that-
me like I'm wrong?
So all
Oh
that
my
is-
god! And then he remembers he hasn't taken his pills, and so he pops it. He takes some of his psych meds. You guys are making me think I'm actually crazy. And he gets up out of the log house.
He just did that all on himself. We didn't say nothing.
I'm not. What were you going to say, Edgar? I'm curious.
I was going to say, he's not wrong. The stuff we have, well, he's wrong and he's right. The stuff we have is very different from what we have here. Whether they think it's valuable or not is completely contextual. That's one thing, because it's not useful necessarily to them. But the other part is, there's like an equal chance of them, thinking we're witches and wanting to kill us, depending on what happens, right?
Well, I think here it would be more wonder workers or whatever they call them, and it'd be more of a...
I think so. One of the things I didn't ask yet is, are there stories about bad wonder workers? Do they have supervillains in this world as well as heroes? And that is something I maybe we should ask that question.
Oh, I wonder. That's a very good question.
Well, I mean, the Sky People obviously are one of those.
I don't think they consider them wonder workers.
No, but they're definitely in
They're
the
just another
villainous
people.
force.
We could ask Braun, see if he knows of any story.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Lamar, did you get up and leave the longhouse?
Yeah. I was assuming that we've been here for a few hours and I have a date to eat.
Well, you get up, because I was actually going to say, I just completely forgot their names. Oh, God. It went right out of my head.
Marine and Brecca?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I remember character names. I'm even bad at that.
Yeah. Vereen and Brecca were about to say, it's like getting close to sundown. So, Lamar, you get up and start heading toward the door to the hall. And as you get ready to leave, someone comes in. They are probably 7 feet tall. They have dark brown skin, very pale hair, long legs, enormous hands and feet, and on top of his head, he's got ears like a deer, not like a cat. And he basically he has to duck to come through this door. and stands up. Now you have, like I said, the only person you've run into so far who's taller than you is Vidar, and he's like two of you. He's 6'8" and just, he looks like the guy that played the Mountain on Game of Thrones. This person is more basketball player build, but like 7 feet tall, and comes through.
Looks like Yao Ming.
Yeah.
Or the Kinde Matumbo-esque kind of build. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's dressed mostly similar to everyone around, but he's a people you've never seen so far. And he basically just walks past you. But after being towering over most everyone you've met, now this person's roughly 6.5 foot taller than you.
Okay. I'm like, damn. Alrighty. He resists the urge to like how's the weather up there joke, and then he's like, oh, and he clicks horn people. You wouldn't be happen to be the Jarl, would you?
He pauses and turns. I sell shoes. I make shoes.
All right. Like, what's that shoe? Never mind. And he just walks out of the loghouse.
And Brecker and Vereen are go, that's not the Jarl. That's one of the running people. Never challenge them to a foot race.
I mean, they're called the running people, yeah. Oh, you're not here, mister.
Oh, okay.
We should go, though. If it's sundown, we should go.
Yeah.
I wish he wouldn't jump to conclusions on what I'm trying to tell him.
We should not let him go meet with the Jarl by himself, though.
Nope.
That is
We might
not
see him
a good
hanged
day.
in the morning if he does.
Freya just kind of
All
stops
right.
and like thinks, like,
Freya,
sorry,
we're
sorry.
going.
Sorry, you're right.
We, as much as it pains me, we can't let him go by himself, because while he could probably do a decent job at it, I don't know what would happen if he says the wrong thing on accident.
So Edgar gets up, and as he starts walking out, I don't know if other people are getting out, he's going to say, wait, what happens if he runs out of his meds?
Oh, you're right. That'll be fun.
Well, let's just hope I can pull more out of my bag.
Yeah.
Because if he gets like that after just one day and not taking them, maybe 2, I don't know when he last took them. But still.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's head out.
All right. So we're going to break it here.
That's perfect timing.
And yeah, and I much like the session, just much like I knew exactly what to call this session, I think I know exactly what to call next session, which is In the Hall of the Mountain King.
I love
Of
it.
course.
Yeah. So I am, for those who asked, let's see here, I'm deleting a bunch of stuff. Can take that out, can take that out, can take that out. Take that out, 'cause you really... So what I've done is I've added some the NPCs that you met, and I have, let's see if I can make this work.
While you are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and take us out to the credits. So.
Yep, sorry.
No, you're fine.
But I've updated the NPC list. I've updated your folk tale.